Fate granted you endless longevity. Yet it deliberately withheld the ability to protect yourself. Instead, it gives you one chance each year to upgrade. You understand what fate intends. As long as you live long enough, in tens of thousands of years, you're bound to become invincible. To survive in this chaotic and turbulent world, you had no choice but to allocate all your points to strength. And even with just a slight increase in strength, it allows you, a newcomer here, to hunt prey barehanded. The following year, you continued to steadily increase your strength. Unexpectedly, your body transitioned directly into an invincible state, impervious to blades and bullets. This also allowed you to secure a position during this chaotic era as a night patrol officer for the Sui dynasty. Unfortunately, the good times did not last long. The Sui dynasty soon went to war with the barbarian tribes. The country began enforcing a nationwide military draft. You assumed you would inevitably end up on the battlefield. But to your surprise, the authorities noticed you were still unmarried. Worried that you might betray due to having no attachments. Unexpectedly, you were eliminated. However, your superior Lin Dong wasn't so fortunate. Before departing, he entrusted his 9-year-old daughter Lin Qingtan to your care. By the 4th year, you had gained 4 points of strength. Among ordinary people, you had already become invincible. At this moment, bandits attacked the small town. You fought alone and took down over 10,000 enemies, protecting the entire town's residents. This battle made you a household name. You were directly promoted to captain of the patrol team. The mayor even started grooming you as his successor. He openly stated that his position would be yours after he retires. But there's some bad news. Among the bandits you killed was someone named Han Feiyu. His brother, Han Li, had an incredible stroke of luck. He was actually accepted as a disciple by an immortal. He will definitely come looking for revenge. But fortunately, he's just started training. It would take at least 10 to 20 years of training before you could leave the mountain. Yet you remain completely unfazed. Give yourself another 20 to 30 years to level up. By then, who knows who will be beating up whom. By the 11th year, you've already added 10 points to your strength. With just one casual punch, you can split mountains and cut through rivers. You feel that your strength is sufficient for now. So this year, you decide to put a point into luck instead. As a result, your luck turns incredible. You end up finding money on the ground every day while walking around. It's perfect to carry an umbrella when it rains. When parking, there will always be a spot available after waiting in line. You are at the very front. But at that moment, devastating news arrived. Reports from the front lines. Lin Qingtan's father, Lin Dong, had fallen in battle. Lin Qingtan wept for 3 whole days. At the same time, several individuals claiming to be immortals from the Hahuan sect arrived in Lizhu town. They announced their intention to recruit disciples with a fate for immortality. They mentioned, sensing that there is someone in town with an extraordinary destiny. Someone with such a rare fortune appears only once in 1,000 years. And it turns out this person is someone named Chen Ping'an. You thought it was yourself who had been noticed. But unexpectedly, the test results revealed. The one with the great fortune was actually Lin Qingtan. He agreed without hesitation. Because over the years he had already realized that you never aged. And were definitely not an ordinary person. In order to stay with you forever, he not only agreed to become the holy maiden of the Hahuan sect, but also requested to take you back to the sect. The sect initially agreed. But after a test, it turned out you were someone without any fortune. And individuals without fortune bring bad luck to those around them. The sect strictly forbids accepting such people. You were heartlessly rejected. However, they agreed to offer you compensation. You can choose from techniques, elixirs, and magical treasures. You gave it some thought. You asked if there was a method that burns lifespan. A technique for evil cultivators to boost their cultivation. No, a righteous cultivation method. The other person looked at you in surprise. But they still handed you a book titled Requiem Technique, along with 2 essence cultivation pills. This technique allows you to rapidly reach the golden core stage by burning lifespan. But its limit is the golden core stage. The longer you live after forming the golden core, the stronger your power becomes each year. Your strength increases bit by bit with every additional year of life. You open the manual. The first page states that it takes 300 years to form a golden core. 3,000 years are required to reach the level of a great master. 30,000 years can elevate you to the rank of a saint. 300,000 years will render you invincible in the world. You can't help but exclaim in amazement. This technique feels like it was tailor-made just for you. What makes it even better is, you can still trade 3 times the lifespan for 3 times the cultivation speed. Originally, it took 300 years to form a golden core. Now it only takes 100 years. Another 10 years passed. The old town mayor retired. You became the new mayor of Lizhu town. Decades went by. Your appearance remained completely unchanged. The townspeople all said you must have gained a connection to immortality, that you were already half an immortal. More and more people are eager to become apprentices. But you know that the turtle breathing technique is not something ordinary people can practice. I have turned them all down. At this moment, you are already at the 8th level of Qi training. Your strength has accumulated to 20 points. Luck has reached 6 points. Now, if you pluck a leaf and flick it, it can pierce through a mountain over 100 meters away. As your luck increases, you might even be able to gain a deeper understanding of the techniques you've already learned. You have mastered the art of turtle breathing. The great turtle breathing technique can be cultivated up to the nascent soul stage. Its reputation is growing rapidly. More and more people are coming to seek apprenticeship, and many of them are wandering souls with tragic pasts. Some want revenge after their entire family was wiped out. Some are unwilling to accept being abandoned after an engagement was broken off. Some were cast out by their families after losing their status. Each story is more tragic than the last. Yet you still refuse every single one of them. They assumed you found their sincerity lacking. So they simply stayed in town, hoping to move you. You noticed they were boosting the local economy. So you decided to just let them be. Until one particular day, someone began to doubt the skills you hadn't shown in years. 2 gangs started causing trouble on your turf. You had no choice but to step in and mediate. You demanded they compensate for the damages caused by their fight. They verbally agreed to your terms, yet insisted on continuing to take action. You frowned, warning that this is not the place for outlaws. No personal fights are allowed. The other party completely disregarded you. You realized that someone was behind this. In a cold tone, you stated that no matter if it's Zhang San of the Crippled Leg Clan, or Wang Wu of the 5 Elements Fist, or even Li Si, the Prince of Emptiness, they have 50 breaths to pay up and leave. Otherwise, they must bear the consequences. The leader still tried to shout defiantly. You smirked coldly. Dipping your finger in the tea, you flicked it lightly. A single droplet sent the man flying hundreds of meters away. The others were so terrified they scrambled away in panic. Only one person remained standing in place. Not only did he not flee, he instead stepped forward and revealed his identity. I am Xin Lang, an officer of the Great Sui Patrol Division. I plead with you, sir, to come forward and save the Great Sui Army. Confused, the Sui dynasty can't understand why a cultivator like me is seeking them. He gave a bitter smile and said there is indeed another immortal. But they have been in seclusion for too long. They stopped involving themselves in matters long ago. Now, you're the only one we can rely on. You remembered the time when you first crossed over. You had seen the terrifying power of an immortal destroying a city with a single strike. And that's why you decided to keep a low profile and grow steadily. So how come there's no one left now? Xin Lang explained to me. This is merely a place in the lower realm. Immortals practice cultivation in the upper realm. When immortals from the upper realm descend to the mortal world, they are suppressed by heavenly principles. They may even have to start their cultivation all over again. This is why immortals rarely come down. You secretly feel pleased, thinking that after enduring for tens of thousands of years, you will emerge invincible. As for saving the Great Sui, war is far too dangerous. Why not keep a low profile and focus on becoming immortal? In the next moment, you vanish right before his eyes. A few days later, a corpse, completely drained, appears at the town's government office entrance. A similar murder happened several decades ago. Back then, it was handled by a Taoist priest from the Maoshan sect. You ask the villagers where the Maoshan priest is now. The villagers say he is on his way here. You lack the ability to see beyond the mortal realm. The cause of death couldn't be determined. All they could do was wait. Hours passed as they waited, only to receive devastating news. Dao Chang Shijian had also passed away. He had become yet another dried corpse. The villagers found a piece of parchment on him. You took it and looked at it. It turned out to be his 20-year investigation records. Every murder case was documented. It all revolves around a serpent lurking in the back mountain. The serpent is hidden within the mountain body. It regularly feeds on human vitality, nourishing itself in the process. Daozhang Shijian met his end while investigating it. You silently leave after watching. Late at night, you venture deep into the back mountain. Discovering a mountain that resembles the body of a serpent, you channel 25 points of strength. With a single punch, you strike out. The entire mountain collapses in response. From the rubble emerges a giant serpent, dozens of meters long. It roars at you in fury. I was just one step away from becoming a flood dragon. And you ruined everything. You can't be bothered to waste words. You throw another punch without hesitation. The serpent is instantly obliterated. Under the influence of fate, you unexpectedly acquire a trace of flood dragon energy from its body. With this trace of dragon energy, you can now strike down enemies from a distance. The power behind this punch makes you estimate that you've reached the 8th or 9th level of the foundation establishment stage. The next day, the townspeople saw the mountain collapse and suspected that you were the one responsible. Because your name is Li Chang, they gave you the nickname Half-Immortal Li. The reason it's half-immortal is that you haven't yet faced off against other immortals. As a result, Lizhu Town was renamed Lizhu Wonderland. A large number of martial artists flocked to the area. But none of this concerns you anymore. You have already begun your secluded training. During your time in seclusion, a lot of events took place. Lizhu Wonderland became a sacred place in the martial arts world. The 4 major sects established a presence there. The old emperor of the Sui dynasty passed away. A new emperor ascended the throne. The political situation became unstable. The frontier was breached by barbarian tribes. Forces retreated to the second line of defense. In the same year, an immortal emerged, heading straight for the Lizhu Celestial Grotto. This person was none other than Hanli, who joined the immortal sect 30 years ago. News of the immortal's arrival quickly spread across 100 miles. The 4 major sects also received urgent reports. Hanli had been cultivating for 30 years. Why head straight for Lizhu Cave Heaven as soon as he emerges? The reason remains unclear. But it is certainly no trivial matter. The leaders of the 4 major sects urgently convened for a discussion. Everyone deliberated together. Speaking cautiously was emphasized. A respectful attitude was deemed necessary. After all, he has practiced immortal techniques. He is no longer the same as before. Someone proposed an idea. Should we inform your former mayor who is currently in seclusion? But we are worried about disturbing your cultivation. The decision of the 4 major sects to first approach with courtesy was overturned. They decided to wait for Hanli to arrive, then assess the situation and act accordingly. 3 days later, Hanli reached the port of Lizhu Cave Heaven. Without saying a word, he swung his sword and destroyed the entire Wolfpath port. Standing in the middle of the water, he coldly said, "Bring your Huashur people here." The 4 sect leaders hurriedly arrived. They bowed respectfully. Hanli sneered and said, "This place used to be called Lizhu Town, didn't it? Why has the name been changed to Lizhu Paradise?" One of the sect leaders smiled apologetically and explained that the senior might not know. That was the old name from the past. Hearing this, Hanli calmly said, 35 years ago, I entered the immortal sect to cultivate. And my younger brother joined as well. I once believed both brothers had a bright future. Never expected that while I achieved success in my cultivation, he ended up dying in Lizhu Town." The Qing steel sword in Hanli's hand quivered. With an intense killing intent, he vowed to find the murderer who killed his brother. "Otherwise, I will make the entire Lizhu Town pay the price." The crowd erupted in shock. The 4 sect leaders were thrown into panic. "Senior, this is an event from 35 years ago. You only moved here 10 years ago. Where can we find the murderer?" Hanli narrowed his eyes and scanned the surroundings. He pointed his sword at the leading sect master. "The calculations indicate the murderer has never left Lizhu Town. Gather all the permanent residents here. I have my own ways to distinguish them. If the murderer is not found within 3 hours, you all will accompany my brother in death." With that, he drew his sword and split the distant mountain in half. The 4 sect leaders broke out in a cold sweat. They hurriedly sent people to conduct an all-out search. The entire town of Lizhu was thrown into chaos. Hanli suddenly asked who currently rules the martial world. He inquired about the top martial artists. The sect leaders quickly responded that the leader of the martial alliance is Zhuo Qianhuang. However, the number 1 master among the top 10 is Yu Qingtsong of Mount Hua. It is said he once crossed the sea and ascended 300 meters into the sky. He is already said to possess the demeanor of an immortal. Hanli sneered and remarked that a frog at the bottom of the well dares to call itself an immortal. The sect leaders lowered their heads in agreement. They continued to introduce the top 10 experts. Hanli's face was filled with disdain. One of the sect leaders noticed this. Hesitating for a moment, he said that aside from the top 10 experts, there were also 2 individuals too powerful to be ranked. Hearing this, Hanli raised an eyebrow and asked who would dare to claim the title of an immortal. The sect leader hastily explained about the first individual. You must already know. It refers to your master, the very first immortal of the Great Sui dynasty, Master Qingshu. Hanli nodded in acknowledgement of his master. He is truly extraordinary and far from ordinary. But when his gaze turned cold, who could he possibly be? Who dares to stand on equal footing with my master? The 4 sect leaders explained, you may not be aware. This immortal has emerged for the first time in 35 years. It is said to have the power to move mountains. A single drop of water could take a life. Once served as the mayor of Lizhu town. With narrowed eyes, Hanli remarked that it could move mountains. This is truly the work of an immortal. Have any of you witnessed it firsthand? The 4 sect leaders quickly shook their heads, indicating they had not. These stories date back to 10 years ago. We only heard about it from others. Though many people seem to say the same thing. It should be true. Speaking of which, the 4 of them suddenly paused. As if something came to mind. Hesitantly said, if someone has stayed in Lizhu town for the past 35 years, and never left, there might indeed be one person. That would be this immortal. However, that person showed hesitation. Hanli's expression turned cold. But what? The 4 sect leaders quickly explained that the immortal was currently in seclusion. Seclusion? Hanli sneered and said, so what if he's in seclusion? I am a true immortal. But he might not be. Even if he can move mountains, so what? As an immortal, I am not incapable of moving mountains. The 4 sect leaders dared not defy him. They could only nod in agreement, and sent elders to lead a group to the place where you were in seclusion. As they arrived in front of the house, the group hesitated and dared not move forward. For over a decade, no one had ever dared to come near this place. An elder gathered his courage and knocked on the door. Immortal, are you there? I humbly seek an audience. Who's there? A lazy voice called from inside. The elder quickly dropped to his knees, saying, I meant no offense, sir. I truly have an urgent matter to discuss. Behind him, 300 martial artists also knelt in unison. At some point, without anyone noticing, you were already standing in front of the crowd. The elder was trembling with fear. He lowered his head and said a cultivator from an immortal sect had crossed the river, claiming he wanted to see you. If you refused to go, he threatened to kill everyone in the entire town. Such hostility. It seems he doesn't have good intentions. You glanced at the people kneeling before you. How long have you been in seclusion? The elder quickly responded to the immortal. You've been in seclusion for a full 10 years. Hearing this, you glanced around the area. You looked at the newly constructed tall buildings nearby. Shaking your head, you said they might as well give up on maintaining a sect. Building infrastructure seems like a better fit for you all. The elder looked puzzled and confused. He asked respectfully, may I ask, immortal, what exactly is infrastructure? You let out a soft chuckle, then asked again what the person looking for you is called. That immortal introduced himself as Hanli. The elder responded. You furrowed your brow. It seemed to spark some memory. What was the purpose of his visit? He claimed it was to avenge his brother. He suspected it had something to do with you, immortal master. His brother was killed 35 years ago in Lizhu town. When the elder said that, your memory suddenly became clear. Isn't his younger brother named Han Feiyu? That's right. The elder quickly replied, then his younger brother is the one I killed. Upon hearing this, you admitted it directly. The entire crowd of 300 people froze instantly. You gave a faint laugh. Since you came all this way just to find me, a guest has come from afar. Then go ahead and entertain them. Lead the way up front. A group of 300 people take you to the ferry crossing. The 4 sect leaders saw the scene. Their brows furrowed, thinking they hadn't invited any immortals. It seems like they'll have to fight desperately today. But Hanli smirked disdainfully and said, did you really think sheer numbers could threaten my life? He hadn't finished speaking. 300 warriors stepped aside. You touched your ear. Casually, you walked out from the back of the group. So, you are Hanli? You asked in a calm tone. A cold gleam flashed in Han Li's eyes, daring the boy to seek death. Calling an ancestor's name outright. You did not respond. Instead, you focused your mind inward, diving into your sea of consciousness. Poured a decade's worth of points entirely into strength. 35 points of immense power surged instantly. You faced Han Li with a cold smile, thinking he should have come 35 years ago. The more you delayed, the less you should have come. It was only at this moment that Han Li confirmed you were the one who killed his brother. Yet he showed little reaction. Instead, he sneered fiercely, saying it was fine that you killed that useless fool. Now I can kill all of you with justification. He shouted furiously. The sword energy surged forward like a relentless tide. The surrounding warriors quickly stepped back. But you merely raised your hand with a gentle motion. And the sword energy instantly dissipated. The entire crowd stood there in stunned silence, completely speechless in their astonishment. You smiled and sarcastically asked if someone who couldn't even swing a sword properly dared to call themselves an immortal. Han Li was taken aback. But his killing intent grew even stronger. He is the most gifted individual in the sect in the past 300 years. Except for his master. He should be unmatched in this world. But just as this thought emerged, you casually pointed a finger. A surge of dragon-like energy instantly shot out from your fingertip. Han Li had just raised his sword to block. But the dragon energy, like a massive wave, instantly tore him into a mist of blood, leaving no trace of his body behind. Everyone was completely stunned. A single finger splits a river. A single finger shatters a mountain. A single finger slays an immortal. This is the true power of an immortal. You ignored everyone's astonishment, letting out a yawn. You waved your hand casually and said it's nothing. Then you turned to leave. The 4 sect leaders quickly nodded in agreement. Respectfully replied to the master. Please feel free to let us know if you need anything in the future. We are here to follow your instructions. You nodded, and went back into the small hut overgrown with weeds. The 4 sect leaders waited outside the door, not daring to step inside. One of the leaders mustered up the courage to ask the master, "Does this house need any repairs?" You calmly replied that it doesn't. "I just love this old shack. Only here. Still brings back memories of 35 years ago." News of Lizhu Town's celestial master killing an immortal with a flick of his finger spread across the Great Sway. Even the Great Sway dynasty was shaken. 3 days later, a massive army sealed off Lizhu Town. Martial artists watched from afar, too afraid to get close. These are the top experts from the Patrol Bureau. And there's also a royal decree. It seems to be the influential princess of high rank, who has personally come to see you. In the shabby little hut, a woman dressed in a black outfit with gold trim stands before you. She softly pleaded, "I used to dislike conflicts. But now, the Sui dynasty is in grave peril. I have come this time to represent the Sui dynasty and ask for your help. In the evening, I am willing to honor you as the national advisor. I will fulfill all your requests." But you calmly looked at him and said, "There is something that needs to be clarified. I am indeed a good person. However, this matter is not something I should intervene in. And you don't have anything significant to offer to make me take action. Isn't that right?" The woman nodded in agreement. Then she sincerely added, "But you have lived in the territory of our Great Sway for many years. Surely, you must feel some sense of loyalty. Barbarians are cruel and violent. Once crossing the border, they will surely massacre the civilians. Your return is not only to save the Sui dynasty. It is also to save all living beings." You chuckled softly and said, "That makes sense. Too bad I don't fall for moral coercion." The woman remained silent for a moment. She sighed lightly and said, "Then I won't disturb the immortal master any longer." "Glad you understand." You pulled your head back into the rocking chair, getting ready to fully embrace a laid-back lifestyle. But just at that moment, a sudden sound echoes in your mind. Your destiny triggers a connection with the royal family. Affinity with them increases by 1%. Is this even possible? You abruptly rise from the rocking chair. "Wait," you call out to the woman who was about to leave. You say, "Go back for now. In 3 days, I will come myself." The woman was overjoyed. She turned around and expressed her gratitude to the immortal master. "I will report this to the emperor right away. You will be appointed as the Grand Master of the Sui dynasty." Another faint ding sound was heard. Destiny was activated, granting you favor with the royal family. The dragon energy increased by 5%. You felt a surge of joy in your heart. At this pace, Achieving the maximum level of dragon energy is just around the corner. Lost in thought, a new prompt suddenly appeared in my mind, granting me a new identity. Grand Master of the Sui Dynasty. Blessed with a 20% boost to national fortune. Able to enhance my level by 20%. Feeling both astonished and doubtful. When I first became the mayor of Guha town, why wasn't there such a prompt back then? Upon further reflection, it's probably because my previous identity was too insignificant. Simply not worth tipping. This signifies, the higher the status in the future, the greater the benefits you can receive. Get everything ready in 3 days. With silent, light steps, appearing instantly 1,000 meters away, rushing swiftly toward the border. Meanwhile, soldiers in the border city urgently reported to the general. A force of 100,000 enemy cavalry is charging toward the city. The woman had a solemn expression on her face. Order the soldiers to ready their bows and crossbows. Hold your ground at the top of the city wall. Do not leave the city under any circumstances. Also, instruct the martial artists to stay vigilant in defense. Make sure the enemy experts don't find any weak spots. With that, the soldier quickly departed. The woman rubbed the bridge of her nose. She asked the general beside her with deep concern. Has the immortal not arrived yet? The general on the left quickly reported back. The rear defenders have yet to send any updates. It seems the immortal has not yet arrived. The woman reluctantly nodded, hoping that was the case. Among the barbarians emerged an unrivaled warrior. Last time, he shattered 3,000 pieces of armor with poison. He can almost single-handedly turn the tide of battle. Although our empire also has martial arts masters. Right, Qin once mentioned. Even if he teamed up with the old monk, still outsmarting that barbaric warrior. If we fight to the death, we might end up losing our lives to him. The general froze upon hearing this. Is that barbaric warrior truly so formidable? Before the words had even faded, a sudden roar of heavy hoofbeats echoed from outside the city, shaking the ground with tremors. Tens of thousands of cavalry charged with all their might. The defending soldiers quickly drew their bows and nocked their arrows. However, a figure from the barbarian cavalry suddenly dashed forward, leaping dozens of meters in a single bound. It was the barbarian warrior Wang Xianji who shot an arrow. The soldiers immediately ordered a rain of arrows to blanket the sky. But Wang Xianji casually waved his hand, shattering all the arrows in an instant, and continued charging toward the city wall. A distance of 1,000 meters was closed in just 5 breaths. He was about to step onto the wall any moment now. The defenders were thrown into a state of panic. They could barely handle ordinary enemy soldiers. Facing such godlike figures left them helpless. There was no way to resist. Immediately, Wang Xianji charged alone onto the city walls, cutting through the defenders. At the same time, the barbarian's massive hammer slammed against the city gates, with a thunderous crash echoing all around. The final barrier collapsed under the assault. The savage faces of the barbarian cavalry emerged before their eyes. Just as the soldiers of the Sui dynasty felt certain death was inevitable, a calm voice resonated across the battlefield. Everyone, step back. I will take control of the battlefield. At the critical moment, you finally arrived on the battlefield in person, charging into the enemy ranks. With one strike, you forced Wang Xianji to retreat. Another slash swept across the land, halting the barbarian army behind the sword's mark. The barbarian leader's gaze was fierce. In a loud voice, he asked if you were one of the elite warriors of the Sui dynasty. You shook your head and replied that you were not one of the elite warriors of the Sui dynasty. However, you said they could refer to you as the national teacher of the Sui dynasty. As soon as these 4 words were spoken, the expressions of the defending soldiers instantly turned fervent. This was because the Sui dynasty had only one national teacher, and that was the recently appointed immortal. This person standing here was none other than the immortal. The leading general immediately dropped to one knee in front of Li Changshou. Bowing deeply with clasped fists, he declared his respectful welcome to the national teacher. After that, the soldiers hurriedly followed to kneel and bow. They shouted in unison to welcome the great master. The commotion here was incredibly loud, to the extent that the soldiers on the city wall were drawn to the scene and looked over in this direction, seeing the soldiers kneeling before a man, and hearing them seemingly calling him the great master. Who is the great master? The soldiers on the city wall began to recall. A look of sudden delight appeared on his face. He shouted excitedly, "Immortal! The immortal has arrived. Hurry and inform the general. The immortal is here." Unlike the joy on the city walls, the barbarian leader skillfully controlled his towering warhorse. He took 2 steps forward. He locked eyes with Li Changshu and said word by word, "My prairie iron cavalry. With just 3,000, nothing can stop us. With 30,000, we are invincible on the road. Yet I have 300,000 cavalry behind me. Enough to sweep through everything in our path. The great Sui Empire, a mere martial artist like you. What gives you the courage to stand in our way, daring to block the path of my 300,000 cavalry?" The cavalry leader shouted angrily. The warhorse neighed loudly in response to the command. The leader bellowed once more, 300,000 cavalry. Cut through them. Nothing more than ants. Crushed and obliterated in an instant, becoming the lifeless souls under the blades of the cavalry. The leader of the charge let out a thunderous roar. The cavalry at the city gates surged into the city with relentless force. 300,000 hooves trampled the earth in unison. The ground trembled and the mountains seemed to shake. The defending soldiers hurried to their feet, their faces filled with panic as they stared at the barbarian cavalry charging toward them. Even though there are immortals here, it's just as the leader said. There are 300,000 barbarian cavalry behind us. Can the immortals stop 300,000 cavalry? They felt uncertain in their hearts. The leading general clenched his teeth and raised his blade. He shouted and ordered everyone to form ranks, to assist the master of the nation, and confront the barbarian cavalry. A faint and weightless voice drifted over, ensuring every soldier defending the city could hear it clearly. Li Changshu stood alone at the very front. 300,000 barbarian cavalry charged at him. The ground trembled as if the mountains were shaking. The killing intent filled the air like a storm. Li Changshu's expression remained calm and composed. He even took a moment to stretch lazily, waiting until the cavalry was within 30 meters. Only then did he break into a grin. And with disdain, he remarked, 300,000. He lifted his foot. A profound and radiant energy shone in his eyes, channeling all the energy into this single step. He stomped down onto the ground before him with force. The crystal stone floor instantly turned to powder, not offering even the slightest resistance. Then the soil beneath began to crumble, exploding into a deep pit at a terrifying speed. Finally, the city walls built on the soil could not withstand it and shattered inch by inch, completely caved in. Starting from the point of Li Changshu's strike, the area of destruction expanded further as it went on. The ravine grew deeper, forming an unimaginably terrifying fan shape. Within the ravine, shaped like a small mountain, nearly 10,000 barbarian cavalry were annihilated. Both the defending soldiers and the barbarian cavalry were stunned. Could this be the power of an immortal's single strike? Was this the might of that one step? Through the dust and rubble of the collapsed city wall, a lone figure slowly emerged, standing atop the highest point of the ruins. He smiled toward the barbarian cavalry hundreds of meters away. 300,000 cavalry are nothing. Even 3 million could still be defeated. The barbarian cavalry dared not respond. They stared at the figure standing on the ruins of the city wall, feeling as though they were gazing upon a deity. Only a god could possess such overwhelming power. The barbarian cavalry that roamed the plains felt fear for the first time, stopped their charge and attack, and almost considered turning their horses around. The defending generals were filled with excitement, and looked with reverence at the figure standing amidst the ruins of the city wall. They cheered loudly, shouting for the Grandmaster. The soldiers on the city wall, thanks to their timely retreat, were not affected by Li Changshu's powerful kick, and now gazed fervently at Li Changshu's back, shouting loudly alongside the general. "We have achieved victory. The Grand Advisor is truly incredible. Is this the power of an immortal being?" The woman also gazed intently at the figure standing amidst the ruins of the city wall, her heart filled with an indescribable sense of excitement and reverence. It was a transformation from despair to overwhelming hope. All of it was because of one individual. Perhaps this is the ultimate height of human power. Li Changshu cast a glance toward the section of the city wall several hundred meters to the left. He noticed that Taima was still locked in combat with Zhuo Feiyang and the old monk. Without much thought, he lightly kicked his foot. A pebble from the rubble shot out at incredible speed. In an instant, it pierced through Taima's left arm. The force sent him sprawling to the side. Taimo gritted his teeth tightly, his eyes filled with resentment as he glared at Li Changshu. Speaking in clumsy official Sui dynasty dialect, he angrily shouted, "What kind of skill is it to launch a sneak attack?" Li Changshu's expression remained calm. He brushed off his sleeve and casually asked if you are good at fighting. He shouted angrily at Taimu, asking if anyone could fight better than him. Taimu stayed silent. Yet he continued to glare at Li Qingshu with anger. Zhou Feiang and the old monk quickly stepped back. They bowed respectfully to Li Qingshu and greeted him as the national advisor. Li Qingshu responded indifferently and without much effort. Zhou Feiang and his companion didn't find anything unusual about it. The Sui dynasty is home to skilled masters, 2 immortals in the world. Though they are often mentioned together, only those who are true experts can truly grasp the gap between themselves and the immortals, a difference as vast as heaven and earth. Taimu Wu being injured effortlessly by Li Qingshu serves as the clearest evidence. Some even believe that Li Qingshu had no intention of killing Taimu Wu earlier. Otherwise, Taimu Wu would already be dead. Taimu still clenched his teeth and charged toward Li Qingshu. Unwilling to back down, he retorted, "Contemptuous songman. If you have the guts, wait for me to train for another 30 years. By then, I will surely take your head." Taimu truly embodies the reckless nature of the prairie barbarians. He has no understanding of yielding even slightly. He is determined to fight to the death. Right now, you already can't defeat me, let alone 30 years from now. Li Qingshu couldn't help but laugh. Another comment, a strong body paired with a mind like a dog's. Taimu gritted his teeth. He slammed his fist heavily onto the ground, leaving behind an extremely deep fist mark. He shouted angrily, "You only have the advantage of being born earlier, when the world was filled with the most abundant energy, and you happened to seize the opportunity to cultivate. In terms of talent, I should utterly surpass you. Just give me 30 years. Entering another era of great opportunities, reaching the pinnacle of success, I will surely defeat you." Li Qingshu clasped his hands together. Then he bent slightly at the waist and stretched his body a bit, appearing very casual. He asked an unrelated question toward the Ironwood house. "Let me test you with a math question. How old will you be 30 years from now?" The wooden house furrowed its brows. He shouted at Li Qingshu, saying, "I am only 3,030 years old now. Barely 60 in human years. For someone cultivating immortality, I am still in my prime. At the peak of my strength. You know, calling you a brainless fool isn't really an exaggeration." Li Qingshu chuckled lightly and replied, 30 years later. You must be 30 years old." Taimu was stunned. He quickly realized that Li Qingshu was planning to kill him. His eyes widened with rage. He roared angrily at Li Qingshu, saying, "You're scared. You're afraid that 30 years from now you'll lose to me." Li Qingshu nodded and responded, "I'm scared of a dog brain that can't even do basic math. Are you satisfied now? If you're satisfied, strike a better pose then. You can smile and make a peace sign. Make the corpse look a bit better." Timber 5 gritted his teeth and shouted angrily, "You coward. Not even daring to ask for 30 years of time. And you still dare to call yourself an immortal. Might as well just call yourself a wimp." Li Qingshu's expression remained calm. He casually replied, "If you bark like a dog again, I'll turn your corpse into a specimen." Taimu froze for a moment. Although he didn't understand what the specimen referred to, he knew it definitely wasn't anything good. In his anger, he cursed, calling them a despicable villain, a coward and a spineless fool. Suddenly, a noise came from the rubble of the city wall. Before Taimu could make out the face clearly, a large hand grabbed him by the shoulder. An overwhelming force surged through and flung him away with great power. His body skidded across the ground, forcefully carving out a 100-meter-long trench. Lying helplessly at the very edge, bones shattered into fragments, windpipe crushed, only able to let out faint sounds. Still capable of speaking? Li Qingshu inquired, effectively silencing this Taimu completely. He slowly strolled toward Taimu. A colleague remarked, "I was planning to give you a peaceful way out, but I didn't expect you to stir things up like this. 30 years, I'll give you 30 years. You think you can defeat me? Oh, don't be ridiculous. Do you really think I won't grow stronger? Whether it's now or 30 years later, you'll always be nothing more than someone I can crush with ease. And why should I even give you 30 years? If you could just show a little better attitude, get down on your knees and beg me, and say a few words about exchanging ideas politely. Maybe if I'm in a good mood, I might actually give you 30 years. You even went as far as saying you want to kill me. You must really not value your own life. I'm generally a nice person, but I'm not someone who lets others walk all over me." Li Qingshu approaches. casually picked up a sword dropped by a soldier, planning to use it to finish off Taimu. Suddenly, intense thunderous drumming could be heard in the distance. Flames shot high into the sky. A group of people in white robes gathered around. Chanting echoed around the altar. Raised both hands high. A faint glow shimmered on the flag. The leader gathered their energy, shouted loudly to the heavens, inviting the supreme sect to descend. Night had fallen. The dying ironwood object on the ground emitted golden light from its eyes. The light rose into the air. The ground within a 700-meter radius began to crumble piece by piece. Calling upon deities is a type of Taoist spell used in certain practices. It has also been widely spread among the common people. It primarily involves inviting righteous deities from the heavens to descend into one's body. However, the scene before us is definitely not a deity-invoking ritual. Li Qianxiu stood on the only piece of land within 100 meters. He gazed at the ironwood floating midair. Frowning, he asked, "Who are you?" Taimu clenched his fists tightly. The golden light in his eyes shone brilliantly. He did not respond to Li Qianxiu. Instead, he spoke with utter disdain. The mortal body is inherently fragile. It can only exert such a small amount of power. In the distance, a qi refining cultivator soared through the air with a jade artifact. He respectfully stood behind Taimu. Bowing, he said, "The sect master of the lower sect greets the immortal from the upper sect. It was you who invited me here." Taimu turned his head to look at the qi refinement practitioner. The golden light in his eyes shone even more intensely. The qi refinement practitioner quickly nodded. He responded that he had invited the immortal to eliminate this person, and to prepare in advance for the arrival of the upper sect in this world. Taimu didn't even glance at Li Qianxiu. He reached out a hand toward the qi refinement practitioner. A brilliant light gathered upon it. He began by saying that this realm was under the jurisdiction of the Fuya Immortal sect, and that it was far too barren, without even a single golden core cultivator. So how could it possibly require his presence? Do you worthless fools even realize? I just managed to strike up a conversation with the saintess after great effort, only for it to be ruined because of you, a useless fool, forcing me to descend to this realm. When Taimu Wu uttered these words, his tone was full of gloom. The body of the qi refining cultivator trembled in fear. Hurriedly clasping his hands, he pleaded for forgiveness, claiming ignorance. Apologies for disturbing the celestial being. This lowly one deserves to die. This lowly one truly deserves death. He indeed deserves such a fate. With a cold tone, Taimu responded. The outstretched palm suddenly clenched tightly. The body of the artificer seemed to be crushed. In an instant, it turned into a mass of pulverized flesh. His life ended as he descended into the underworld. Then, Taimu shifted his gaze toward Li Qianxiu. A golden light flickered in his eyes, brimming with murderous intent. Looking down at Li Qianxiu with a cold and domineering expression, he said in an icy tone, "You deserve to die too. If it weren't for the commotion caused by an insect like you, I wouldn't have been forced to descend into this world." Li Qianxiu spread his arms wide and replied nonchalantly, "Then why don't you just go back now? It's not like anyone's stopping you." Taimu questioned coldly, his face devoid of emotion. "You ruined my perfect chance to speak with the saintess, and now you expect to just send me away like this? How could such an easy thing happen? I will harvest the souls of you insignificant ants, turning them into the very essence of my cultivation. Only then can I slightly compensate for my losses in the lower realm." Taimu's words revealed the killing intent pouring out of him without restraint. And he intended to kill more than just one person. Instead, it encompasses the entire martial world. The soldiers on the city walls and the barbarian cavalry. At this moment, they all seemed a bit unsettled. Judging from Taimu's performance of slaying 5 weapon forgers, he appears to disregard friend or foe, as long as there is killing. And the words Taimu just said indeed managed to frighten them. To think he plans to reap everyone's souls and turn them into the essence of his cultivation. Li Qianxiu was not overly concerned, because this ironwood was not particularly strong. When cultivators from the upper realm descend to the lower realm, their strength is significantly weakened. There have even been tales of top martial artists defeating celestial beings from the lower realm. Li Qianxiu, being a native of this realm, progressed steadily and cautiously, and naturally was not affected by any weakening rituals. However, the celestial being who descended into the ironwood body, otherwise, he would be weakened by the will of the heavenly Tao in this world. The weak Li Qianxiu could barely feel any pressure. If the two were to truly fight, It might just result in an evenly matched outcome. The golden glow in Taimu's eyes focused on Li Changshu. He stared for a moment and sneered disdainfully, saying he's nothing but a mere foundation establishment ant. What gives you the audacity to stand in my way? Even though my power has been greatly reduced due to my descent, you, such a lowly ant, are still unworthy of looking directly at me. At this point, Taimu's expression turned noticeably impatient. His face showed a hint of irritation. He pointed his finger at Li Changshu. In a frosty tone, he said, "Drop dead." Suddenly, he clenched his fist tightly. A cruel smile appeared on his face. He intended to crush him, just like he had done to other Qi cultivators before. Li Changshu. Li Changshu stood alone on the only stone pillar in a 100-meter-wide crater. A profound and powerful aura, resembling the energy of a dragon, flickered in his eyes. Suddenly swung his fist forcefully to the right. As the fist struck through the air, a strange metallic clashing sound echoed. Then the air in that spot began to shatter inch by inch. Fragments fell like shattered glass. The onlooking soldiers and barbarian cavalry were stunned. They had never witnessed such a display of extraordinary power. Li Changshu slowly withdrew his fist. Calmly turned to Taimu, who was floating mid-air. Childish tricks like these aren't worth showing off. Feeling disinterested, Taimu's expression darkened. He loosened his clenched palm. The golden light in his pupils seemed to waver. It resembled the flickering of flames. He raised 2 fingers, mimicking the gesture of pinching a soybean. Imagine yourself as a slightly larger ant, just a bit bigger than the others, but ultimately unable to escape the reality of being an ant, and unable to avoid the fate of being crushed by me. Taimu spoke these words with great confidence. He came from the upper realm. His cultivation level is profoundly advanced. In his eyes, these people are indeed as insignificant as tiny ants. Is there a possibility? The intense dragon aura in Li Changshu's pupils grew even stronger. It began to spread across his body. He continued, anything that exists in this world is nothing more than an ant. And that includes you who have descended here. And there I was, with the corners of my mouth curling into an arrogant grin. Clenching my fist, I struck directly at my chest. Exuding dominance, it was the largest and most imposing one. An unparalleled aura radiated from him. He slightly lifted his foot, then suddenly stepped toward the standing stone pillar. The fierce energy of the flood dragon surged wildly toward the stone pillar, causing the stone pillar to begin cracking. Yet it did not collapse. Instead, it started to rise upward. The stone pillar turned into a dragon. Standing on its head was Li Changshu, rushing fiercely towards the ironwood floating mid-air. Today, there is a wanderer among the green mountains, riding a dragon to slay an immortal. Get down here right now. Li Changshu let out a thunderous roar, clenching his fists tightly, using every ounce of strength he had, charging directly at the ironwood warrior. This punch stirred up a gust of air, dragging a long trail across the sky, like a meteor on the verge of falling, about to crash onto the ironwood figure. And the power of a meteor is something that cannot be underestimated. The ironwood figure's expression was one of shock and fear. His hands swiftly formed a seal. A golden glow enveloped his body, covered in densely packed runes. 3 large circles revolved around him endlessly. This is an ancient defensive technique, capable of blocking fatal attacks within 100 meters. A stone dragon came crashing forward, its body shattered piece by piece. Yet it continued to charge at the golden light, attempting to break through and attack. The runes on the golden light kept resisting the stone dragon's assault. The first layer of runes vanished along with the stone dragon, leaving 2 layers remaining. Another punch follows. The punch lands with the force of a meteor crashing to the ground. Golden light begins to erupt with intense brilliance. The remaining 2 circles of runes converge into one, completely resisting this punch. The iron curtain floats amidst the golden light. Both hands form intricate gestures, continuously enhancing the golden light with runes. But it's futile. True power cannot be stopped. A crack began to appear on the golden light. When the first crack emerged, it signified fragility had set in. It indicated that it had already become weak. The fist kept wearing away at the runes. Cracks on the golden light multiplied relentlessly. They spread densely across its surface. Eventually, it could no longer hold together. As the fist came down, the golden light shattered completely. It scattered into the vast expanse of the world. In Ironwood's panicked expression, a punch fell with unstoppable force. What moves faster than a falling meteor? The answer is someone hit by the meteor. Ironwood was instantly slammed into the ground. He was forcefully driven hundreds of meters deep. And yet, the descent didn't stop, only halting after reaching a depth of 1,000 meters. His entire body was emitting white smoke. Friction from the high speed had already ignited flames on him. Other than that, the ground sank by 3 kilometers. Nearly 30,000 members of the Ant cavalry were killed or injured. This happened even as they retreated. Li Qianqiu clenched his smoking fist, standing atop the air, exhaling deeply, looking at the pit where the Ironwood house had fallen, returning to the moment of punching. I mean it. Digging holes is what I do best. If everyone in this world were ants, then he would be the biggest one of them all. No matter who comes into this world, they all have to follow his orders. Of course, if you can tear this world apart directly, Li Qianqiu might take back what he just said. Being flexible and adaptable is the mark of a true hero. Immortal, stop pretending to be dead. Get out now. Li Qianqiu shouted into the hole in the ground. He knew Taimu wasn't dead, because he could hear the sound of breathing beneath the earth. After a brief moment, Taimu rose from the ground into the air. His body was covered in blood. The golden light in his pupils had dimmed. He looked at Li Qianqiu with a serious expression. You truly are the biggest ant. But it's still just an ant. That's all that matters. Li Qianqiu responded with a smile. As long as I always remain the biggest one, then I am unbeatable. Impossible, Taimu firmly shook his head. Although you have remarkable talent and possess some strength, once you step out of this world and enter the vast multiverse, only then will you understand how terrifying a true prodigy can be. Those ancient species, forgotten bloodlines, sacred bodies, and divine physiques are simply beyond what you can withstand. This small realm cannot possibly protect you either. True figures of great power are capable of tearing apart the heavens and the earth with their bare hands. Li Qianqiu frowned and cautiously asked Taimu Wu a question. Are you an emperor? Taimu Wu shook his head. The great emperor is an existence beyond what we could ever dare to imagine. His lifespan spans an entire epoch. His power can command the stars. He can reverse the forces of yin and yang. So, do you know the great emperor? Li Qianqiu asked again. Taimu Wu still shook his head. With a respectful demeanor, he said, the great emperor is not someone I could ever come into contact with. I wouldn't even dare to utter the great emperor's name. Li Qianqiu nodded. He smiled at Taimu and said, it's settled then. I can rest assured to kill you now. Taimu was taken aback. He quickly responded, you don't need to kill me. And you can't kill me anyway. This is just a fragment of my divine soul. Even though your status is insignificant, I am willing to work with you in full cooperation. Together, we can harvest the beings of this realm. Attain the essence. Afterward, I can take you away from this realm. Experience the wonders of countless worlds. Pursue the path of cultivation. Li Qianqiu's lips curved into a smile. Asked a question that was unrelated. Do I really look like a fool to you? Taimu shook his head, then frowned and asked again. Why would you say that? Li Qianqiu smiled. Then why are you trying to deceive me with such foolish rhetoric? No, I didn't try to trick you. Taimu was just about to explain. Li Qianqiu threw a punch directly at his head. The coiling energy of a flood dragon surrounded him, unleashing his full strength. An explosion erupted right on the spot. The sonic boom sent Taimu's body hurtling 1,000 meters away, crashing into a hillside. The golden light in his pupils faded away, still barely clinging to life. The falling stone in front of him shattered into pieces. The silhouette of a man on the green mountain blocked out all light. He smiled at him. Hello, Li Qianqiu always values politeness. Taimu gritted his teeth and made his final threat. You insignificant ant. If you dare to destroy my divine soul, from now on, every time you step out of this little world, I will hunt you down across all realms for countless millennia, until your soul is completely obliterated, ensuring you never enter the cycle of reincarnation. How frightening, Li Qianqiu calmly responded with a single word. Then he delivered the final punch. This punch shattered the skull, bringing an end to both the immortal and Taimu. The effects of destiny. You severed a fragment of a divine soul from an upper realm immortal in the sea boundary, gaining 3 acres of invincible intent. A prompt appeared in Li Qianqiu's mind. He paused for a moment, then immersed himself in his divine sense to observe. Invincible intent manifests when crossing realms to defeat enemies. In the first realm, taking a life grants 1 acre of invincible intent as a blessing. surpassing peers by 3,000 acres of invincible intent. Becomes the invincible one. Can open the path of the earth and ascend to the heavens. Li Changshu nodded. He seemed to understand roughly. He didn't pay much attention to it. After all, it requires 3,000 acres of flawless intent to unlock the path. He currently only has 3 acres. Far from enough. The fortune's effect helped him defeat an immortal from the upper realm. He obtained the first volume of the Chi Practice Manual for the Mysterious Soul Path. A notification popped up in his mind again. Li Changshu's spiritual consciousness grew silent. He opened the first volume of the Mysterious Soul Path Manual. The eternal soul of heaven and earth has endured countless millennia without perishing. The 3,000 great paths are all encompassed in a single chapter. Mastering the energy of the profound soul is the prerequisite for cultivating the path chapters. Li Changshu quickly glanced through it. This is essentially a cultivation method. The first volume allows one to cultivate up to the nascent soul stage, which is the same limit as the Great Tortoise Breath technique. But its specific effects are different. The Profound Soul Path chapters. The first volume focuses on a cultivation method. It requires developing a trace of mysterious soul energy within the body. Only then can you use this energy to inscribe Tao chapters inside your body. The more chapters you write, the higher your level becomes, and the stronger your abilities grow. Eventually, it's even possible to achieve the Great Tao body. However, that content isn't covered in the first volume. The specific methods for that are detailed in the later volumes. The first volume only provides a brief hint about it. Li Changshu still paid no attention. It was just a reward dropped from defeating monsters. He stretched lazily at that moment. He waved toward the remaining hundreds of thousands of barbarian cavalry, and casually said, "Leave now." The barbarian cavalry dared not linger, nor did they dare to speak back in defiance. Li Changshu hurriedly made his way back immediately, heading straight toward the grasslands without delay. As for the Chi refiners, just stay behind. Li Changshu called out loudly. He was quite wary of these Chi refiners, reporting to the so-called celestial beings of the upper realm. All the Chi refiners froze in place. Immediately, they knelt before Li Changshu and bowed, addressing him as an immortal. "Please spare us. We promise to live a quiet and reclusive life overseas from now on. We will never dare to cause trouble again." Li Changshu nodded in agreement. "I truly wish I could spare you all, but your actions leave me feeling uneasy. Rest assured, immortal, we will never make contact with the upper realm. Let the immortals from the upper realm descend. What's needed is a body as strong as iron and wood. There aren't that many naturally gifted individuals in this world. Please do not worry, ancestor." Li Changshu nodded, with arms crossed. "You already know this. I am a good person, and also a bit lazy. If I can avoid doing something myself, I usually won't take action." "Yes, you truly are a great person." The alchemists quickly chimed in agreement. Li Changshu nodded in approval, then calmly returned to his usual demeanor. "But I am not a fool. Sorry to disappoint you. I don't want to live in constant fear. I will eliminate you in the quickest way possible, ensuring you won't suffer too much." So Li Changshu rolled up his sleeves. Amid the terrified expressions of the Chi refiners, he extended his hand forward, made a gesture of invitation and said, "Please meet your end." Today, a total of 56 overseas Chi refiners all perished outside the border city. The entire event took no more than 10 breaths of time. Li Changshu stood outside the city. His face was filled with an aura of invincibility. After the ancestors defeated the barbarian cavalry, the Sui dynasty not only secured the border regions, but also reclaimed the 100-mile territory lost before. And they achieved this without a single soldier's sacrifice. The barbarian cavalry retreated to the grasslands, never daring to invade Sui's land again. All of this was thanks to the ancestors of the Sui dynasty, who is now honored as the Grand Advisor of Sui. Stories about the Grandmaster are spreading among the people right now. They say the Grandmaster could casually stomp his foot and wipe out nearly 10,000 barbarian cavalry in a pit. He also crushed a barbarian immortal in front of both armies, unmatched during his time. There are people in the martial world who have directly obtained half of Li Changshu's invincible reputation, and boldly claim that Li Changshu is invincible. However, there are also opposing voices, saying that the immortal from the Great Sui Immortal sect has yet to appear. The two immortals have yet to truly engage in a fierce battle. Li Changshu cannot truly be considered invincible. There is still some debate regarding his strength. However, when it comes to reputation, Li Qingshu is undoubtedly the most renowned under the heavens. Even the emperor of the Great Sui cannot compare to him. People nowadays no longer discuss the emperor. They only talk about the immortals. Although they dare not make comparisons in public settings, in private conversations at home, they freely express their thoughts. They would dismissively gossip about the emperor. The emperor isn't exactly the most powerful. You ask him to act tough in front of the immortal master. Would he dare? Would he dare to make the immortal master kneel? I think it's more likely he'd be the one kneeling before the immortal master. However, such remarks are only made privately at home. No one dares to say it openly, for fear of being caught and losing their heads. But the truth is, that's exactly how it is. There's no such thing as the top 10 martial artists in the world. In the world, there are 2 immortals now. Only one immortal remains, Li Qingshu. Because Li Qingshu alone is enough. He alone can dominate the entire martial arts world. The title of top master in the world seems almost laughable in Li Qingshu's presence. The effect of fortune. You have earned the admiration of the Sui dynasty's people. The dragon spirit is boosted by 50%. Originally, Li Qingshu was still sleeping in the carriage. This gave him a sudden boost of energy. What is this nonsense? It directly increased by a number of 45. He took a closer look and realized he had gained the admiration of the citizens of the Sui dynasty. He couldn't help but nod slightly, thinking to himself that he truly had real talent. The soldiers escorting the sedan at the front heard the commotion from inside, and quickly asked, "Master of the nation, is there anything causing you discomfort?" "We are heading there right now." Li Qingshu shifted to a different position while lying down, responded with nothing unusual. "How much longer until we reach Huangdong?" The soldiers quickly returned following this route. "It should take about 3 more days. By then, His Majesty the Emperor will be able to meet you." The words implied that the Emperor is meeting Li Qingshu, rather than Li Qingshu meeting the Emperor, proving that Li Qingshu is considered superior to the Emperor. Li Qingshu nodded in agreement. He responded again, saying to call him when needed. "I took a rest." The loyal soldier quickly nodded and agreed. Li Qingshu started setting things up again. At the same time, he pondered the path ahead. The so-called celestial being from the higher realm declared that as long as Li Qingshu dared to venture across the heavens and worlds, he would hunt Li Qingshu for countless millennia, until he was completely annihilated. So now he can't go to what is called the myriad worlds, and he can't go there either. This is definitely good news. He just needs to stay in this world for now. That way, he will be safe. Then just wait patiently. He only needs to focus on yearly improvements and practicing the Great Turtle breathing technique. After thousands or even tens of thousands of years, he can venture out again. By then, who is chasing whom might be a completely different story. Also, the first volume of the mysterious Soul Dao Manual. Li Qingshu also wanted to cultivate. Having more skills is never a burden. Besides, this technique seems much more normal than the Great Turtle breathing technique. He stretched lazily again, silently activating the technique in his mind, while waiting to grow stronger. It really is such a dull and tedious process of cultivation. Getting stronger, for Li Qingshu, is simply such a monotonous journey. Li Qingshu had not yet arrived at the capital city. His portrait had already circulated widely. Ordinary people had little to say about it. At most, they would take a look at the portrait, to see what the celestial national advisor looked like, and broaden their horizons a bit. But officials could not afford to think the same way. A strict order had been issued from above. Anyone within the capital city must commit the national advisor's portrait to memory. Every detail of the facial features must be memorized. Anyone who fails the assessment should not hold a government position. The emperor personally issued an imperial decree. As long as they are officials of the current dynasty, regardless of rank or status, no matter the occasion, they must kneel in reverence when meeting the Grand Master. This applies without exception. Anyone who disobeys will be immediately removed from their position. The meaning of this sentence is, even if you're using the restroom, and you happen to see Li Qingshu, you must kneel and pay your respects, no matter the situation. Though it's unlikely you'd encounter him in such a setting. The capital city has been exceptionally busy these past few days. People not only need to familiarize themselves with Li Qingshu's portrait, they also have to organize the capital. In every bustling and populated area, banners welcoming the Grand National Advisor must be displayed. Even the emperor issued an order to construct statues of the national master in various bustling areas of the capital, and to ensure the statues were built right outside the gates of the imperial palace. On the paths where ministers ascend the steps for court meetings, a massive statue of Li Qingshu was to be erected. Some ministers raised objections, advising His Majesty that such actions might cause issues when the crown prince ascends the throne in the future. Could it damage the image? Whose image among the princes would be harmed? The national preceptor has been a lifesaver for our great sway. As long as the national preceptor doesn't mind, I am willing to have statues of the national preceptor built throughout the nation. Everywhere in the great sway where people reside, there will be sculptures of the national preceptor. The emperor waved his hand. It is this minister. The minister quickly lowered his head, realizing they had misspoken. Too afraid to say anything further, the emperor gazed at the minister, let out a heavy sigh, and snapped angrily. You're as stubborn as a block of wood. I need to seriously think about whether you're truly fit for such a high position. The minister lowered his head and gave a slight nod in response. Your Majesty is right to point out that I am slow-witted. The emperor took a deep breath. Still, it's like being disappointed at unfulfilled potential. These ministers, every one of them, are loyal, no doubt about that. But they just can't seem to think quickly. Now that they have the support of their ancestors, they should eagerly seize the opportunity without hesitation. Even if they're met with cold indifference, they must persist. Otherwise, who else is fit to rule as emperor? Who ultimately governs the world? Isn't it just a matter of a single word from an immortal? If you serve the immortal well and make them comfortable, when they see how sensible you are, wouldn't they let your dynasty maintain control over the world? Otherwise, if the immortal is displeased, they might just slap you to death in an instant, and simply rebuild a more obedient dynasty. You may leave now, the emperor waved impatiently, dismissing the minister. The minister quickly withdrew. The emperor paced back and forth inside the grand hall, exhaling repeatedly, feeling a bit uneasy. According to the schedule, the immortal will arrive in the capital city in 2 days. What should he do to ensure the immortal's satisfaction? The emperor pondered deeply, greatly troubled. On the carriage, Li Qingshu was lying in a twisted, awkward position. This was the comfortable position he had managed to find after much effort. A crisp and clear female voice suddenly came from outside. Your Excellency, the Grand Advisor. May I come in? It was the inquiry of the Grand Princess of the Sui dynasty. Li Qingshu lazily responded with a sound. The carriage door then opened. The Grand Princess, dressed in an elegant robe, stepped inside. She respectfully knelt down beside him. With a smile, she asked, I wonder if the Grand Advisor is satisfied with this trip. It's fine. Li Qingshu nodded indifferently. Anyway, I have no idea where to go. The woman smiled gently. Her hands rested on her knees. She sat upright with her back straight. Her posture highlighted a graceful curve. Looking back on this trip to the capital, it is certain not to disappoint you, Grand Advisor. I surely will not be disappointed. Li Qingshu nodded and elaborated. Because I never had any expectations. He didn't have any illusions about this so-called capital city. His trip to the capital was merely to enjoy a simple carriage ride. The smile on the woman's face froze. She didn't know how to respond. What's your name? Li Qingshu suddenly inquired. A soft reply of Song Qian. The woman quickly responded with a polite nod. Li Qingshu nodded, gazing idly out the window. What are your thoughts on the Sui dynasty, master? Song Qian asked abruptly, her hands gripping tightly onto the fabric of her dress resting on her knees, feeling uneasy inside. What thoughts? Li Qingshu looked out the window, replying calmly. No particular thoughts. Just like in other dynasties. An emperor. Hundreds of officials. Millions of people. As long as there are no famines or wars, this kind of life is actually not so bad. Isn't that right? But time. It is always moving forward. Maybe you will become a page in history books. No one can say for sure. Song Qian couldn't help but defend herself with a comment. But you are the Grandmaster of the Sui dynasty. You could also be the Grandmaster of the Tang or Dali kingdoms. Li Qingshu replied calmly. At the same time, he raised his head from gazing out the window. Looking at Song Qian, he smiled and said, Besides, I will never appear in history books. Not ever. Song Qian fell silent. She stared blankly at Li Qingshu. After quite a while, he nodded with a bitter expression, and replied softly, Li Qianxiu was absolutely right. Even without the Great Sui dynasty, he could still serve as the national advisor to another dynasty. And perhaps not just a national advisor. As long as he wished, he could take on any identity in this world. Li Qianxiu stretched lazily, then turned to look out the window again. Scattered scenes continuously passed by outside the window. He particularly enjoyed this feeling. Song Qian no longer disturbed him. After paying respects to Li Qianxiu, she turned and stepped away, closed the room door properly. The caravan traveling along the road consisted of a total of 3,000 people, operating under the banner of the royal family, bearing the most prestigious emblem of the five-clawed golden dragon. This is comparable to the grandeur of an emperor's procession. On the wide official road, no one is allowed to come within 3 kilometers. Ahead are the patrol guards, from the Department of Arrests providing protection, who had already begun clearing other carriages and pedestrians from the official road, making way for Li Qianxiu's convoy. In addition to this, there is a logistical support team of 3,000 people. It was arranged entirely in the style of an emperor's grand procession. It was even more extravagant than the emperor's travels. The food in the convoy, regardless of whether Li Qianxiu ate it or not, was always the freshest available. If there was even the slightest issue, even something as minor as a dull appearance, it would be immediately discarded. And then the other relay stations would send replacements with express delivery over 800 miles to transport new supplies. There were even dedicated soldiers appointed to store the food. Traveling with the convoy were several renowned master chefs who have been famous for years. As long as it's time for 1 to 3 meals, the master chefs would start cooking, without caring whether Li Qianxiu would eat or not. They would prepare the dishes first anyway. As soon as Li Qianxiu requested food, the dishes would immediately be served. But the awkward part was, Li Qianxiu hadn't asked for food at all in the past 2 days. The dishes prepared by the chefs, once cold, could only be reheated. These were handed over to the other accompanying guards to eat. It was truly a feast for the accompanying guards to enjoy. At that moment, they quietly expressed their gratitude to the Grand Advisor in their hearts. Besides this, the convoy was always accompanied by beautiful women and fine wine, ready at any moment to serve Li Qianxiu. However, Li Qianxiu did not call for them. He was currently sitting inside the carriage, lost in his own thoughts. The higher he climbs, the more he grows stronger. The stronger he becomes, the more he realizes how terrifying that city-destroying hand was when he first arrived. That massive hand capable of destroying a city was truly horrifying. Perhaps individuals at the Earth level are just like that. After all, even though Li Qianxiu maxed out his strength to 35, he still didn't possess such overwhelming power. Destroying a city might be possible for him, but it's far from reaching the level of obliterating it with a single hand. And the owner of that massive hand, it might even have its power suppressed by the rules of this world. Li Qianxiu sat up straight. He made a rough estimation. Perhaps when his strength reaches somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200, he would be able to destroy an entire city with a single casual strike. Using the simplest calculation method as a hypothesis, assuming a city spans an area of 30 kilometers, at his current full strength of 35, he could create a crater with a radius of 3 kilometers, which is 10 times smaller compared to the size of a city. So it would take at least 350 points of strength at full power to destroy a city with a single punch. To reach the level of doing this effortlessly, adding 3 times the strength isn't unreasonable. After all, the difference between going all out and being casual is quite significant. So, roughly calculating, with 1,000 to 1,200 strength points, Li Qianxiu could match that giant hand in an evenly matched battle. Recalculating, that would mean around 1,000 points. The events from around that time. It feels like a long time. But at the same time, it doesn't feel that long. It depends on how you interpret it. If Li Qianxiu prefers to avoid dealing with external affairs, he could choose to remain in seclusion indefinitely, adding a few thousand or even tens of thousands of years before exploring the vast heavens and worlds. This would be the safest approach. After all, some of the immortals out there are incredibly powerful, and there are even figures of immense significance. Various supernatural abilities are elusive and hard to grasp. Li Qianxiu exhaled deeply. There's no need to rush. Taking it slow will be just fine. At the very least, in this world as it stands now, there is nothing that poses a threat to him. Just as he himself once said, even if one must be an ant, It must be the biggest one. The caravan continues to move forward. State officials along the way would specifically come to greet him. After receiving permission from the guards to clear the path, they knelt on both sides of the official road with their subordinates, showing respect as they called out reverently, paying their respects to the immortal. Li Chanshu had no intention of acknowledging them. Compared to now, he still preferred his days in Liju Town, working as a constable. He had been Liju Town's outstanding constable for 4 consecutive years. Frequently taking watermelons from Old Li's farm was a common thing, especially during the summer months. On idle nights, we would grab one to eat. Passers-by, feeling thirsty, would also pick a watermelon to enjoy. That wasn't really considered stealing. The main task was to monitor the watermelons. The boys in the fields would carry steel forks to guard the crops. But they couldn't always catch the thieves. Sometimes they would accidentally damage the watermelons. And that was when Li Chanshu would step in. He would walk over with a smile, carrying a half-eaten watermelon, confiscated the boy's pitchfork, then turned around and sold it to the new blacksmith in the village. Made quite a bit of silver from it, mostly just for fun. Later on, the boy's family stopped growing melons and switched to selling pitchforks instead. Li Chanshu even showed up several times to support. He bought pitchforks of various sizes, kept at home as part of a collection. Later, the young man made some money, moved to the city, eventually became an immortal. It's all in the past. But thinking about it always feels amusing. A faint smile appeared on Li Chanshu's lips, fondly recalling those summer days. After becoming an immortal, he began his cultivation journey. The landscapes of the mortal world have become much fewer to behold. Perhaps this is why cultivators focus on honing their powers, but rarely take the time to cultivate their minds. After all, they encounter fewer people and events. They see less of the world around them, and experience even less. When they finally emerge from seclusion, they have already become exalted immortals, judging purely by the measure of strength. Though there's nothing inherently wrong with this approach. But Li Chanshu always felt like something was missing. Maybe it was a matter of politeness. After all, he was someone who valued good manners. If he made plans to take someone's life, he would prepare a wreath the day before, then serve a bowl of rice, light 3 incense sticks, and try to avoid getting blood on his hands when carrying out the act. Don't ask why. Because elegance never goes out of style. The celestial carriage delivering the immortal is set to arrive early tomorrow morning. This news spread throughout the entire capital in less than half an hour. It quickly reached every corner of the city. Even children as young as 3 were aware. The immortal national advisor is coming to the capital. The general public remained relatively composed, though they were thrilled and excited. It wasn't enough to cause panic, but the officials were thrown into complete disarray. They didn't even dare to get any sleep. Worked through the night to organize matters within the city, divided the areas into specific sections, and established a rule allowing only one person per household to go out. The streets must never become overcrowded, and they have to remain clean and orderly. Everyone is required to wear the newest clothing. Upon seeing the national advisor, people must kneel and bow their heads. These regulations were delivered door to door by the officials and patrol officers in the capital, who knocked on each door to convey them. Ensure every household strictly abides by the rules. It is essential to present a picture of a city where everyone enjoys happiness and fulfillment. Not only are the officials unable to sleep, the emperor is even more restless, tossing and turning in bed at this moment, constantly pondering how to converse with the scholar tomorrow, thinking about how to win the scholar's favor. He keeps feeling unprepared, and senses that something is still missing. Yet it's hard to pinpoint exactly what's missing. But time pays no attention to such matters. As the sun rises, morning has arrived. It's time for the morning court session. The emperor quickly got out of bed. Even after a sleepless night, there wasn't the slightest trace of fatigue. He hurriedly instructed the maid to help him get dressed, and prepared to attend court. The carriage carrying Li Chanshu finally entered the capital. The sound of heavy hoofbeats echoed as it moved forward. The imperial guards led the way. The carriage traveled alone down the official road, surrounded by citizens bowing in respect. They continuously chanted the name of the national advisor. Li Chanshu lay inside the carriage, fast asleep, using the aura of a flood dragon to block out surrounding noise. It was as if he heard nothing at all. He slowly made his way toward the imperial city. In the grand hall of the court, The civil and military officials had arrived early. Even the emperor was seated calmly. Yet no one uttered a word. Beyond the great hall, all eyes were fixed on the distance. Everyone was waiting for one person. The eldest princess has arrived. A loud announcement echoed from the eunuch outside the door. Song Qian was dressed in a lavish golden robe. She walked with a composed and steady pace, with a somber expression on the face. Stepping into the court hall, the emperor hurriedly asked, "Elder sister, has the Grand Master not arrived yet?" "They should be here any moment now," Song Qian responded briefly, and walked to her designated official position. Standing quietly, waiting for the court session to begin. Everyone was ready and in place. Li Qianqiu was still asleep. Honorable National Advisor. It's time for the morning court session. Honorable National Advisor. The guards outside the carriage called out anxiously. But there was no sign of Li Qianqiu emerging. And they didn't dare to climb directly into the carriage. At that moment, they were truly at a loss. "How about we just carry the National Advisor to the court?" one of the guards suggested. The suggestion was quickly approved. A group of dozens of guards carried an enormous carriage sedan. They ascended hundreds of steps and entered the grand hall. The arrival of the Grand Master was announced. The gatekeeper eunuch shouted loudly. The civil and military officials in the hall quickly straightened themselves up. They composed themselves and stood at attention. What entered, however, was an enormous sedan. Even the emperor was momentarily stunned. After a long pause, he finally asked about the Grand Master. "Where is the Grand Master?" The guards pointed at the carriage. Too afraid to say a word. Meaning the Grand Master is in the carriage, refusing to come out. "Have you been neglecting the Grand Master?" The emperor glared and questioned sternly. The guards, panicking, shook their heads and waved their hands. One of them explained, "We mentioned that. It was to request an audience with your majesty. However, the Grand Master still refused to come out." "You insolent fool." The emperor glared angrily and scolded, "How dare you summon me? It should be me seeking an audience with the Grand Master instead." All the civil and military officials remained silent. After his outburst, the emperor quickly stepped down. Standing respectfully outside the carriage, he clasped his hands and sincerely said, "Song Wei humbly requests an audience with the Grand Master." But there was still no response from inside the carriage. Song Wei's expression grew increasingly tense. The waist lowered even further. He continued bowing and said, "If the Grand Master has any dissatisfaction, you can carefully explain it to me. I will do my utmost to correct it." There was still no movement inside the sedan chair. It was unusually quiet. The atmosphere in the court became tense. Song Wei stood at the sedan chair's door, cupping his fists and bowing. Beads of cold sweat formed on his forehead, fearing that his words might provoke Li Qianqiu's displeasure. After about 15 minutes, a faint sound finally came from inside the sedan chair. The door of the sedan chair slowly opened. A laid-back figure emerged from within. He frowned and glanced around the surroundings. Then he looked at the figure in front of him who was bowing respectfully. With a puzzled expression, he asked, "Who are you?" The emperor, seeing an opportunity, quickly bent down again and replied in a respectful tone, "I am your excellency's national advisor. Loyal supporters. Emperor Song Wei of the Great Sui dynasty." In his words, he had already placed Li Qianqiu in a prominent position. Li Qianqiu nodded approvingly, saying, "This is good. Very polite." Song Wei spoke solemnly with a dignified tone, saying that toward the Grand Advisor. "It should be this way. The Grand Advisor is like a second parent to me in the Great Sui." Li Qianqiu casually observed the grand hall of the court, casually made a joke in passing. "That being said, looks like I'm your father now." The expressions of the officials instantly grew tense. After all, this is a heavy matter concerning the late emperor. The elder ministers hoped the emperor would show a bit more firmness, and not lower himself so much in front of the ancestors. The newer ministers, on the other hand, hoped the emperor could exercise some patience, and avoid clashing with the ancestors over such a remark. This would be no different from throwing eggs at a rock. Let it slide as just a joke and move on. The atmosphere in the court was incredibly tense at the moment. The emperor suddenly lifted his head. A golden light flashed in his eyes. His expression was extremely serious. He stared intently at Li Qianqiu. With a swift flick of his wide sleeve, he clasped his hands and declared, "Godfather." Both the elder officials and the newer ones fell silent. Li Qianqiu was a bit surprised. Who would have thought this emperor could adapt and compromise so well? He casually made a joke. The emperor actually responded to it. The civil and military officials in the court remained silent. They looked at this somewhat ridiculous scene in front of them. But they simply couldn't bring themselves to laugh. In the face of unmatched power, even royal authority seems almost absurd. Song Wei bowed again and said, "Foster father, please follow me to the seat of honor. Let us attend the morning assembly together." With that, Song Wei extended his hand forward, gesturing for Li Qianqiu to go ahead. Li Qianqiu naturally walked to the front, taking his time as he made his way toward the highest chair in the hall. The civil and military officials looked on, filled with anxiety. If the predecessor were to directly sit on the central throne, what would be the appropriate course of action? Wouldn't that mean the emperor would have to stand aside? How could such a situation possibly be resolved? The civil and military officials each had their own schemes in mind. Li Qianqiu walked to the highest point, but he did not take a seat on the dragon throne. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, casually saying, "Bring me a chair. Otherwise, where am I supposed to sit?" Song Wei quickly called out to the maidservants standing by the dragon throne. "Why are you all standing there idly? Hurry up and bring a chair for the foster father." The maidservants quickly stepped back to fetch a chair. In no time at all, a dozen eunuchs carried massive gold inlaid objects and placed them behind Li Qianqiu. After the eunuchs finished moving the chairs, they stood neatly in formation behind him. Even as sweat streamed down their faces, they dared not make a single sound of heavy breathing, fearing they might disturb their master's attire. And they also did not dare to leave at this moment, in adherence to the palace's rules. After finishing the task, if the master doesn't give the order to leave, the servants aren't allowed to leave on their own. They have to wait until the master gives feedback. Li Qianqiu did not take a seat. He turned to look at the dozen or so eunuchs standing respectfully. A smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and he praised them, saying, "I appreciate your efforts." He was always very polite. The dozen eunuchs immediately knelt and bowed their heads to the ground. "Serving the master is our privilege. It is an honor for us. Even if it means facing extreme dangers, we would willingly accept without hesitation." Li Qianqiu casually responded and then took a seat. He rested one hand on the chair, propping his head as he pondered over his own matters. Song Wei noticed that Li Qianqiu seemed satisfied. He was immediately overjoyed, and stepped up to the side of the dragon throne. He addressed a group of eunuchs, saying that their performance was commendable, and instructed them to collect a chest of gold from the Ministry of Internal Affairs. They expressed their gratitude for the emperor's immense favor. The eunuchs bowed their heads and shouted in unison, then gradually withdrew from the room. The following moments arrived. As the court shouted, "Long live His Majesty, long live the Emperor," the civil and military officials finished their chant, and turned their attention to the emperor seated quietly beside the throne. Li Qianqiu seemed to be positioned slightly higher than the emperor. Something just felt off. The emperor squinted his eyes hard. He signaled to the civil and military officials with his eyes. Fortunately, the prime minister quickly understood the emperor's intentions. He took the lead and knelt down, then bowed and proclaimed, "Long live the national master." The civil and military officials hurriedly echoed his words. Li Qianqiu, however, frowned. He suggested, "There's no need to wish me long life. Just wish me to be unbeatable." Long life isn't exactly good news for Li Qianqiu. It's not something he'd consider good news. It's like attending a centenarian's birthday celebration, and then wishing the elder to live another 100 years. That wouldn't be seen as bringing joy. It would feel more like you came to mourn. Wish the grand advisor to be invincible in the world. The prime minister quickly corrected himself. The civil and military officials echoed in agreement. The rest of the morning court session turned out to be a bit dull. It was mainly about administrative matters from various regions. Li Qianqiu couldn't make sense of it, and it wasn't appropriate to leave midway, so he just propped his head up and let his mind wander. Meanwhile, Song Wei would occasionally glance his way and ask, "Godfather, what's your opinion on this?" How could Li Qianqiu even have an opinion? He just stared at him with wide open eyes. At first, he managed to brush Song Wei off with a few decent replies. Eventually, feeling annoyed by the repeated questions, he simply replied, "Just do it the way you usually do. Don't worry about me. Pretend I'm not here." "All right." Song Wei quickly nodded. The entire morning court session passed by as Li Qianqiu sat there lost in thought. For him, it was rather boring. Then came the dismissal. No one dared to leave first. Everyone's eyes turned to Li Qianqiu, who seemed lost in thought. Li Changshou snapped out of it. He curiously asked why everyone was looking at him. Song Wei quickly responded to his foster father. According to the rules, when court is dismissed, the person with the highest status in court should leave first. Who holds the highest position in court? Without a doubt. As the imperial preceptor of the Great Sui dynasty and the emperor's sworn father, Li Changshou. Now that he could walk again, Li Changshou had no intention of delaying him further. He got up straight away and headed toward the outside of the grand hall. Song Wei quickly called out, "Sworn father, where are you going?" "The royal exit is through the grand hall." "It's fine, I'm just taking a stroll," Li Changshou casually replied. Already reached the steps, Song Wei had no other choice. Could only instruct the experts from the patrol department to follow the adoptive father. Make sure to keep the adoptive father in a good mood. If there's even a hint of displeasure, you can head to the punishment department and accept your penalty. Understood. The experts from the military department followed Li Changshou from a distance, not daring to get too close. Could only keep watch from afar. Li Changshou could feel it as well, but he chose to ignore it, because something even more astonishing was right in front of him. 100-meter-tall figurine of himself. Wait, no. The statue was carved entirely based on a portrait. The carving followed the portrait's design exactly, which is why it didn't resemble Li Changshou very much, because the portrait itself wasn't particularly accurate. However, some of the finer details were captured quite well. For instance, Li Changshou carried a laid-back demeanor. His eyes were narrowed slightly, as if he could fall asleep at any moment. However, the statue appeared to be somewhat older in age. It looked like it depicted someone around 35 or 36, giving off a slightly mature impression. Li Changshou's true appearance looked as if he was only in his early 20s. He stopped in front of the statue, with civil and military officials gathered behind him. As long as Li Changshou doesn't move forward, the civil and military officials wouldn't dare go ahead of him. They could only wait patiently. Li Changshou naturally noticed this. He turned his head to look at the crowd. With a smile, he said, "Go ahead of me. No need to mind me. I prefer to take things slow." The Prime Minister quickly spoke up. "The National Advisor is truly considerate. Truly a heart full of compassion. This old servant is deeply moved. Words cannot express my gratitude. I can only dedicate myself wholeheartedly to the Grand Master, and serve until my last breath." The remaining civil and military officials also spoke one after another, expressing their unwavering loyalty. After a court assembly, they finally saw everything clearly. The current state of the world. The emperor comes second. The national advisor takes the top spot. Pleasing the emperor is less effective than directly currying favor with the national advisor. Li Changshou furrowed his brow slightly. He felt that the Sui dynasty as a whole might be a bit too eager to flatter everyone from top to bottom. Although, it didn't seem entirely wrong. He gave a slight nod and repeated, "You all go ahead first." The civil and military officials dared not delay, gradually moving forward, passing by Li Changshou. Some even bowed their heads and greeted respectfully, hoping to get acquainted with Li Changshou. At this moment, the officials, both civil and military, started lining up to pass by Li Changshou. It took a full half an hour for everyone to finish passing by. Li Changshou didn't recognize a single familiar face. After all, sycophants all look the same. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back. He slightly shook his head. Still not used to it. The kind of days where everyone flatters you. It's pretty satisfying. But it's just dull. Li Changshou glanced sideways, stepped forward, and vanished instantly from where he stood, reappearing by the palace wall 300 meters away. "Hello," he greeted. Standing in front was an elderly man with graying hair. He was dressed in a black python-patterned robe. The old man felt a sense of surprise within. His expression remained calm and steady. He clasped his hands and bowed slightly toward Li Changshou. He greeted respectfully as an old servant. "Just now, on the city wall, I witnessed the dignity of the Grand Advisor. I may have been inadvertently disrespectful. I hope the Grand Advisor can forgive me." Li Changshou, the respected noble, frowned slightly. This title, he had heard about it decades ago in Lizhu town. After thinking carefully for a moment, he suddenly realized and said, "You must be one of the top 10 masters in the world." The 9,000-year-old shook his head and said with a wry smile, in front of the Grand Master, "There is no such thing as the top 10 masters in the world. There is only another immortal being." Li Changshou nodded. This is the truth. However, there was one thing he found quite intriguing. He immediately inquired at that moment about the immortal in seclusion within the sect. Do you know anything about them? The 9,000-year-old nodded. His expression grew serious. With a slightly sharp tone, he replied that it was a sword cultivator, rumored to be an immortal reincarnated from the upper realm, present since the founding of the Great Sui dynasty. Once split the nation's gates with a single sword. A sword was suspended above the ground. 50 miles of land were forcibly claimed. A sect was established. Only 50 miles of land were requested. That isn't considered much. Li Changshu nodded in agreement. After all, the sword was hanging above the emperor's head. Asking for 50 miles truly isn't excessive. The elder nodded slightly. He acknowledged Li Changshu's statement. It was the first time I encountered this immortal. It happened 200 years ago. At that time, he was already invincible in his era. He returned after venturing across the seas in search of immortals. With a single sword, he brought peace to the chaotic martial world of the Great Sui. He entered the imperial city alone, wielding his sword. That was my first meeting with him. Back then, as a martial artist at the peak of the Jianghu, I endured 2 of his sword strikes, and fell to my knees within the imperial city, barely clinging to life. It was only realized afterward. He drew his sword and ascended the dragon throne, after kicking over the imperial seal with one swift move. As he departed with his sword, he left behind mocking laughter. The 9,000-year-old shook his head, reluctant to say these words, yet still spoke them out loud. He claimed the emperor was the most supreme person in the world. He was an extraordinary standout among men. Someone arrogant. But they do have reasons to be so bold. I heard you killed his disciple. The 9,000-year-old asked again. With a snap of the fingers, it was done. It felt so meaningless. Li Changshu admitted it honestly, and even shared some thoughts about it. The 9,000-year-old paused for a moment. With a bitter smile, he said, if I remember correctly, he holds deep grudges and fiercely protects his own. A century ago, it was his disciple who caused trouble at the old Dragon Temple. He forcibly leveled the peak of the old Dragon Temple. He killed the abbot at that time. The current old Dragon Temple was rebuilt in recent years. It doesn't have the grandeur it once did. Hopefully, you remembered it wrong. Li Changshu responded calmly. The 9,000-year-old chuckled awkwardly. He didn't know how to respond. After a moment of thought, he then remarked that now he is in a state of seclusion. He has not appeared for 100 years. But if we consider the nature of his retreat, his strength might keep growing stronger. I fear that if something truly happens to him then. 9,000 years old paused briefly, and gave Li Changshu a calm glance, then added that perhaps by that time, he might truly be unbeatable. 9,000 years old deliberately emphasized the words truly unbeatable. Turned up the volume. It's fine, I can handle it too. The response from Bai Siguan Li Changshu remained calm. And if it's Bai Siguan's words, strength doesn't necessarily improve. It's guaranteed to improve. The 9,000-year-old looked a bit anxious, frowned and explained. But he's currently in a vulnerable state during Bai Siguan. If there's a chance to seize the opportunity, maybe it's possible to send him into reincarnation. On Li Changshu's usually calm face, a faint smile finally appeared. He patted the shoulder of the one known as 9,000 years. Shaking his head, he remarked that wanting to be a fisherman. You're not quite qualified yet. Li Changshu then pointed at himself, and commented that you all are mere shrimps. He's a small fish. And I am Li Changshu. Intentionally paused for a moment. 9,000 years old and sweating on the forehead. Lowering his head, quickly followed the conversation back to the big fish. But Li Changshu shook his head, revealed his own identity. I am the Star Destroyer. Star Destroyer, 9,000 years old. Feeling a bit confused. Had never heard of this term. But I have a general understanding. It should be quite impressive. At this moment, lowered his head and didn't dare to speak. Li Changshu patted the shoulder of the 9,000-year-old again, and chuckled, saying, you all just love to treat others like fools. I'm not someone who only trains the body and neglects the mind. How could I possibly be swayed by just a couple of your words, and agree to fight that immortal? The 9,000-year-old let out an awkward chuckle. The intention was uncovered. Not knowing how to respond, after a moment of silence, he had no choice but to say, actually, taking advantage of that immortal seclusion to launch a surprise attack. was indeed an excellent opportunity. As the saying goes, strike when they're weak. Take them down, though I prefer a fair duel. Li Chanshu responded briefly. Then he shook his head and said, besides, he's not even sick. If he were truly ill, I would take back what I just said. The man referred to as 9,000 years old let out an awkward chuckle. He lowered his head and remained silent. In Li Chanshu's words, it was clear that he had no intention of taking action to kill another immortal. Thus, the 9,000 years old man dared not persuade him further, fearing it might displease Li Chanshu. Knocked him out cold with a single punch. Seeing the elder bow his head without speaking, Li Chanshu also shook his head, thinking it was pointless, turned around and swiftly left. He truly wasn't afraid of that so-called other immortal in his heart. Even if that person really came out of seclusion, so what? At worst, Li Chanshu could just find a place to go into deep seclusion first. Wait a few hundred years before coming out. Knock both him and his flying sword into submission with a single punch. A gentleman takes revenge. Even after hundreds of years, it's not too late. 1,000 years is still considered early. 10,000 years could still work. Thinking of this, Li Chanshu couldn't help but utter the words that would influence his entire life. As long as I outlive all of you, I will become invincible. This really makes a lot of sense. He shook his hand briskly and walked toward the outskirts of the imperial city, plunging straight into the mortal world. Statues of him could be found everywhere in the capital. It has to be said, he really doesn't resemble the statues. Even if Li Chanshu stood next to a statue of himself, most people probably wouldn't recognize him. But that makes it easier for him to travel. Since no one recognizes him, he won't be disturbed. The skilled officers of the patrol bureau disguised themselves and blended into the surroundings. They scanned the area with an intense and cautious look, ensuring that the Grand Minister's outing would be satisfactory. Li Chanshu had no particular feelings of satisfaction or dissatisfaction about it. Li Chanshu didn't care much either way. Just taking a look. Honestly, life everywhere looks pretty much the same. It's the lively atmosphere that makes things interesting. Not far away, a vendor holding candied hawthorn is calling out to attract customers. What's being sold isn't just ordinary candied hawthorn. It's more like a variety of fruits. However, business isn't going too well. It might be because the price of fruit is high, so the set price ended up being higher as well. As a result, the average folks can't afford it. Only some wealthy young ladies come to buy it. Li Chanshu strolled over at a leisurely pace. He smiled and asked how much the candied fruits were. The vendor quickly responded. Leaning against the wall, Li Chanshu held 10 coins in his hand. He casually started chatting with the vendor. Your prices seem a bit on the higher side. The fruits are all in season. The sugar syrup isn't expensive either. Selling it for 8 coins would be reasonable. But I'm referring to the older prices from before. That might not apply to the current situation. You can set the price as you see fit. The vendor noticed that Li Chanshu was quite polite. Business these days isn't exactly booming, so they simply started chatting. You used to sell candied hawthorns before. You seem to know a thing or two about this. No, Li Chanshu shook his head with a soft smile. He replied, I used to be a constable. I've confiscated candied hawthorns before. The vendor's smile froze on his face. He pointed at the candied hawthorns vendor and asked in confusion, are you going to confiscate this too? Li Chanshu nodded, explained that it was mainly because of a craving, waited for him to close his stall, took the skewer of candied hawthorn without returning it, ate 1 or 2, returned it the next day, took it again whenever he wanted another. Well, taking 1 candied hawthorn isn't a big deal. It only costs a few coins. Why not just buy it directly? You still don't understand, Li Chanshu, and just shook your head, leaning against the corner with a smile. Then continued speaking. Because getting things for free feels amazing. The vendor paused for a moment, nodding slightly as if he understood, yet not quite. The two fell silent again for a while. There was nothing else to say. The atmosphere became a bit awkward. The vendor gave an awkward laugh and brought up another topic. Do you want a candied hawthorn? I'll sell it to you for 8 coins each, just as you suggested. But Li Chanshu still refused. He gently shook his head. It's not something you can take for free. It doesn't taste quite right. Besides, he patted his own pocket. I don't have money, but the vendor just assumed Li Chanshu was joking. You really are quite amusing. Thanks for the compliment. Li Chanshu politely responded, then leaned against the corner of the wall. without any intention of leaving, quietly lost in thought. The more experiences one goes through, the more they enjoy reminiscing. Though reminiscing doesn't really lead to much. After reflecting, there's always a sigh or two, as thoughts wander aimlessly, commonly referred to as killing time. But Li Changshu was idly looking for something to do. A sugar-coated hawthorn stick with a snow pear, please. A soft and playful voice chimed in from the side. The vendor quickly responded. Sure thing, just a moment. He reached out his hand. He picked up a large sugar-coated hawthorn stick wrapped with a snow pear, and handed it to the young lady in front of him. Li Changshu looked up. It was a charming young lady, wearing a pear yellow dress, with a jade hairpin in her hair. She was flashing a sweet smile, chatting with her companion nearby, exuding a youthful vibe. But that was all there was to it. Li Changshu had lived for decades. He had encountered countless beauties. She was just a pretty young lady, and held no appeal for him. This is what he thought. But when he saw the young woman take the entire candied pear in one bite, Li Changshu was tempted to ask for her contact information, mainly because she was incredibly capable at it. Fortunately, Li Changshu's decades of self-discipline paid off. He quickly regained his composure, suppressing this immature thought in his mind. The skilled patrol officers observing nervously nearby were now thrown into confusion, engaged in continuous communication. The Grand Advisor kept glancing at that young lady several times. Could it be that this young lady belongs to someone's family? Does anyone know? She seems to be the daughter of a 7th-rank civil official, Son Gusi. Experts went to great lengths to figure out what Li Changshu was thinking. They truly exhausted their minds and efforts. Yet they didn't dare act recklessly. They feared upsetting Li Changshu. That person seems to be staring at you, miss. What are you talking about? The playful young lady said with a mouthful of iced pear syrup. She mumbled indistinctly. It's the young man over there. The maid turned her head to look, gesturing to herself. Look over there, miss. The playful young lady foolishly turned her head as well. She happened to meet Li Changshu's gaze. His face quickly flushed red, quickly turned around, pretending to adjust her pale yellow dress. It really seemed like he was staring at her. Could he possibly be interested in me? Why does he keep looking over here? He could at least glance away once in a while. He actually looks quite handsome. Although I didn't get a good look. Should I turn back to take another glance? The playful girl hurriedly patted her cheeks. No, that's not a good idea. Stay composed and stop turning around. This is what a playful girl is thinking. She sure knows how to have a great time. This is what Li Changshu is thinking inside. The playful girl quickened her pace. She wanted to walk away faster. Li Changshu also stepped away from the wall. He was getting ready to leave. Their interaction, logically speaking, it should have already come to an end. However, the unpredictable plot is always full of surprises. Just as Li Changshu had stepped away, the sound of something tearing through the air roared to life, creating a fierce auditory effect. An arrow shot forward with incredible speed, heading straight for Li Changshu's head. The skilled enforcers from the patrol bureau looked utterly shocked. They hurriedly tried to intercept the arrow, but they were all too late. Fortunately, the arrow stopped, gripped firmly by Li Changshu with one hand. The sound of applause filled the air. An elderly man in his 60s leisurely stepped out of the tavern. He marveled at the extraordinary power of the ancestors. Truly remarkable and beyond ordinary. Are you Li Changshu? He asked with curiosity. The elderly man smiled and responded. A craftsman from overseas. That explains it then. Li Changshu nodded in agreement. Here for revenge, aren't you? Your method of concealing your presence is quite impressive. I didn't notice a thing. Mostly because I didn't expect it. It's surprising that someone still dares to attempt an assassination on him. The elderly man held a cane in his hand. A smile remained on his face. He easily returned. It's just the two of them. It doesn't really count as revenge. It's just a feeling of unwillingness. Here to settle the score with the immortal. After all, it's beyond the borderlands. Li Changshu had killed all 56 overseas weapon forgers. Not a single one was left. In that case, I'll just take 2 more lives. Li Changshu responded calmly. At the same time, he crushed the arrow in his hand into powder. This is the capital city of the kingdom. The old man spoke, glancing around the surroundings. This is a bustling downtown area. Within a 5-kilometer radius, 10,000 people live here. When you're trying to kill us, shouldn't you consider the lives of these 10,000 people? Li Changshou scratched his head. He genuinely seemed a bit troubled. Shaking his head, he remarked that he didn't expect everyone would find out I am actually a good person. This is really quite unfortunate. The old man curled his lips into a smug smile and continued, we cultivators overseas mainly focus on supernatural techniques used in battlefields. What we seek is immense power, wide-reaching effects, and even if I can't kill 10,000 people later, killing 2 or 3,000 still wouldn't be much of an issue. Are you willing to let these 2 or 3,000 people die? The old man suddenly turned his head, pointing at the pretty girl in the yellowish dress, and sneered, as long as I cast the spell. The one who dies the fastest is this woman. Could you bear it? Women can evoke a man's sense of pity. Beautiful women can do so even more effectively. The corners of the old man's mouth gradually twisted into a sinister smile. It takes me less than half a breath to cast the spell. Do you think it's possible to completely kill me in less than half a breath's time? To completely kill me, is that even feasible in such a short time? Li Changshou cooperatively shook his head. He truly cannot kill completely. Even if the skull were frozen through, the human body would still retain a brief moment of vitality. It wouldn't result in instant death. This is something that cannot be avoided. Unless the elder is completely ground into dust. The elder let out a hearty laugh, watching Li Changshou deep in thought. His face was filled with a sense of triumph. Both hands rested on his cane. He grinned and said, all right, let's sit down and seriously discuss the terms. There's no other way. Li Changshou suddenly shook his head. He spoke with a tone of helplessness. I can only avenge these 2 or 3,000 people. You haven't honored their spirits in heaven. The old man's pupils instantly contracted. He questioned, are you trying to send these 2 or 3,000 people to their deaths? My abilities are limited. Sorry, Li Changshou said helplessly. At the same time, a serious attitude was adopted. Explained that I will certainly avenge them. As the Grand Master of the Sui dynasty, how could you have such thoughts? You should do whatever it takes to protect these people. The old man roared angrily, have you been reading too many novels? Li Changshou frowned, are you planning to kill someone? I can't stop you. Then I'll have no choice but to kill you. You have the ability to stop it. As long as you agree. No, I refuse. Before the old man could finish his words, Li Changshou directly retorted, and smiled as he said, my life has never been about compromising for others. The old man gripped his cane tightly with both hands, and clenched his teeth as he continued, but you are the Grand Master of the Sui dynasty, so I must seek revenge for them. Li Changshou responded, you want to act out of your own stubbornness. Would you choose to cause the death of 2 or 3,000 people? The old man nearly shouted in anger. He directed his question sharply at Li Changshou. Li Changshou shook his head and replied no. The one I caused harm to is you. Moreover, there is something I want to say to you. Li Changshou cleared his throat, gathering his thoughts for a moment. He spoke, are you willing to let your stubbornness lead to the death of all the qi refiners? Ideas are interconnected. As the weaker party, the qi cultivator, since they can morally coerce Li Changshou, then Li Changshou can turn the tables and coerce them back. The qi cultivator's face darkened. Clenching his teeth, he gripped the cane tightly with both hands. He roared, trading the lives of us overseas qi cultivators for the lives of 2 or 3,000 of your great Sui citizens is not a loss. If you think it's worth it, then fine. Li Changshou nodded sincerely, then let out a yawn. Looking somewhat indifferent, leaned back against the wall again, casually said, here's 2 options for you. Go back or die here. The old man appeared hesitant, lost in thought for a long while, spoke in a deep tone. I'm here to get justice for the 56 craftsmen who lost their lives. You still don't understand what's going on, do you? Li Changshou rubbed his eyelids. He looked at the elder and asked if he could be threatened by insects. If you intend to kill these civilians, then just do it. I can't stop you. But if I decide to kill you, you won't be able to stop me either. Afterward, I will make a special trip overseas to wipe out all of you qi practitioners. Does that sound all right to you? The elderly man's hand gripping the cane was trembling. He realized that Li Changshou genuinely didn't care about the lives of these 2 or 3,000 people, because Li Changshou's demeanor was completely casual, with no intention of stopping it at all. But he is the grand advisor of the great Sui dynasty. How could he be like this? Li Changshou turned his head and asked the girl in the dark yellow dress, are you afraid of dying? The young woman froze for a moment, She couldn't quite grasp the situation. But she nodded anyway. Then stay close to me. I'll make sure you survive this. Hearing this, the young woman instinctively moved closer to Li Changshu. The old man suddenly grew fierce, formed a hand seal with determination, and muttered the word abandon in a low voice. His voice was cut short, because half of his head was already gone. Li Changshu stood right in front of him. It was merely something done casually, yet the old man's remaining half of his mouth twisted into a cruel grin. You really do care, after all. We have another weapon craftsman. He will cast his spell soon. All right, Li Changshu nodded calmly. He truly didn't seem to care. The explosion sounded like a faint noise from about 800 meters away. It was clearly heard by Li Changshu. Then, a fierce surge of dragon energy erupted from the ground. In an instant, it surrounded the figure and restrained its movements. The old man, with only half of his head remaining, could no longer hold on. He fell silent. Li Changshu felt a tinge of regret, saying, I originally couldn't stop you all. But unfortunately, your unsettled mind slowed you down, and your hands became sluggish. The skilled officers from the patrol bureau quickly made their appearance. They dispersed the surrounding crowd, who were unaware of the situation. Then they gathered around Li Changshu. Kneeling on the ground, they bowed their heads and said the patrol bureau failed to protect you. We ask for the national advisor's punishment. Li Changshu was momentarily taken aback. He found it somewhat amusing. I really don't need your protection. Also, don't follow me anymore. Go home and get some rest. Master Xia, please forgive us. The skilled officers of the patrol bureau hurriedly kowtowed. Li Changshu couldn't be bothered to say much more. After wandering around, he returned to the imperial city. He sat in the luxurious palace bedroom prepared by Song Wei for him, and planned to start another secluded cultivation session. Late at night, there was a sudden knock on the door. A timid voice appeared at the door. Master of the nation, may I come in? Li Changshu found this voice somewhat familiar, but he couldn't quite recall it, so he nodded and replied that it was fine. The door was gently pushed open. What entered his view was a pair of well-proportioned, slender jade-like legs, with only a small piece of cloth covering the hips. Then came a graceful figure, and finally a charming face. It's you! Li Changshu suddenly realized. The one who came was actually the person he had encountered earlier today. The young woman who can swallow a snow pear with rock sugar in one bite. The young woman lowered her head. Her face was flushed with embarrassment. It seemed as though water could drip from her face. She didn't dare look at Li Changshu, and softly greeted him. Greetings to the esteemed national advisor. Li Changshu casually asked. What is your name? Huang Qingyue replied gently in a soft voice. Worried about disturbing Li Changshu, Li Changshu got up, walked closer to Huang Qingyue, asked with great interest. When you were buying candied hawthorn today, performed the act of swallowing a pear whole. Huang Qingyue shyly nodded in acknowledgement. Her expression grew even redder with embarrassment. Redder than today's candied hawthorn. With a smile, Li Changshu adjusted his pants. Could you perform one more time? This time, let's not eat candied hawthorns. Huang Qingyue's rosy expression showed a hint of surprise. She asked in confusion. If not candied hawthorns, then what? Li Changshu thought for a moment. He replied, with your amazing oral skills, using them just to eat candied hawthorns is such a waste of talent. Besides, there's something I've always wanted to try. Huang Qingyue, puzzled, lifted her gaze, feeling a bit confused, and sensing that Li Changshu's words seemed to carry a hidden meaning. This matter is probably something no man could refuse. Li Changshu spoke. His searching hand paused, and he flashed a smile at Huang Qingyue, then continued, Can you perform eating a whole pig in 3 bites? He asked, as Huang Qingyue's eyes widened. Staring at the roasted suckling pig in front of him, his face was filled with confusion. However, he still ate it, and instead of 3 bites, he finished it in just 2. A natural-born genius. This was how Li Changshu described it. Huang Qingyue's cheeks were puffed up like balloons. She couldn't even speak clearly, only able to chew quickly. Then it was just the two of them staring at each other. Why are you here? Li Changshu finally asked this question. Huang Qingyue lowered her head, and softly said, It was my father who sent me here. He said the royal advisor had taken a liking to me, and asked me to serve the royal advisor. When he said those words, because the woman was shy and easily embarrassed, her face turned a deep red. She didn't even dare to lift her gaze to look at Li Changshu. This was the charm of a young girl. Li Changshu nodded in agreement. He seemed fairly approving. It could indeed be considered as having taken a liking. After all, being able to swallow a whole roasted piglet in 2 bites proved that my judgment wasn't too bad after all. Wang Qingyue looked even more embarrassed. Her head was practically pressed against her chest. She softly explained, "I do have a bit of a sweet tooth. It must have amused the master. But I came here to serve the master. After all, women are naturally shy." When she mentioned the word serve, her voice suddenly grew quieter. She didn't dare to speak it aloud. "How are you planning to serve me?" Li Changshu asked with a smile, thinking it might be fun to tease the young girl a bit. "However you wish," Huang Qingyue replied softly, still too afraid to look at Li Changshu. "All right." Li Changshu nodded, and asked, "Do you know how to play chess?" "I learned it from my father. I suppose you could say I know how to play." Huang Qingyue responded with an affirmative. Li Changshu brought out a chessboard. He arranged the chess pieces neatly. He gestured invitingly. "Since there's nothing better to do, why not have a game of chess between us?" Huang Qingyue quickly nodded in agreement. She sat upright in a proper posture. "Please, esteemed national master, make the first move. Then I'll gladly accept." Li Changshu held the reins in his hand. He let out a low shout. With a quick drift, he made his move. He strategically gained the upper hand in this moment. Huang Qingyue paused her hand that was about to make a move. Her face filled with confusion. The sword rose gracefully. An elder dressed in luxurious robes stepped onto the ferry. It sailed through the sea of stars, finally stopping in front of a hidden cave dwelling. He straightened his clothes first, then bowed and addressed the elder. "From Wangu, requesting an audience with the saintess." "No need to meet her. If there's anything, just say it outside. The saintess is unavailable. I'll relay the message for you." The cave door suddenly made a sound. It unexpectedly opened 2 eyes and looked at the old man, replying. The old man reluctantly nodded. "Speaking of the celestial realm, there is a grand gathering of 10,000 sects. The sect leader asked me to notify the Holy Maiden to prepare for participation. At the same time, we can use the status of the newly appointed Holy Maiden to strengthen relationships with those sects. Therefore, the Holy Maiden needs to make thorough preparations. Moreover, the grand gathering of 10,000 sects isn't far off. It happens to be exactly 1,000 years from now. I also ask the Holy Maiden to refine her skills with the Qin family, so that she can shine brightly when the time comes." The cave door emitted a sound of impatience. All right. Just hurry up and pass on a message to the sect leader. Why add so many personal remarks?" The elder's expression turned displeased, but he didn't dare to show his anger. He quickly walked away. At the cave entrance, he chose not to relay the elder's words to Lin Qingtan, because Lin Qingtan could hear it. He just didn't want to respond to the elder. Over 30 years ago, when he first arrived at the Fuyao Immortal Sect, he had already witnessed countless flattery and the unpredictability of human nature. And he understood that, for most of these elders, personal interests came first. He was someone with modest cultivation levels, but possessed extraordinary talent as the saintess, making him the type of person these elders most liked to associate with. Fortunately, his status as the saintess was high enough that he could outright ignore these elders if he chose to, allowing him a chance to cultivate in peace. Lin Qingtan shook his head. The beautiful eyes blinked softly, looked toward the cave entrance and asked Xiao Wu, "What level do you think I need to reach in my cultivation to be able to leave freely?" The cave entrance pondered for a moment, then hesitantly replied, "At least the Island Sea realm." No, that's not enough. The Island Sea still seems insufficient. Even the ancient Sky realm doesn't seem adequate. The Earth realm is probably the safest choice. Lin Qingtan furrowed her willow-shaped brows, feeling like asking this was no different from not asking at all. He let out another sigh. 30 years have passed like the turning of days and nights. For someone with the lifespan of a cultivator, it is merely a brief period of time, hardly even worth paying much attention to. But to Lin Qingtan, it felt incredibly long. The longing stretched endlessly, and with each passing year, it only grew longer. If longing were a long, endless river, then the longing in Lin Qingtan's heart might have already gathered into a vast ocean. The more he interacted with the celestial realm, the more he missed the days in Lizhu town, and thought about Li Changshu, remembering that sincere and genuine brother show. Of course, he felt the same way. His feelings had never wavered. No one had ever been able to stand firm after being defeated by the general. The crown prince was finally appointed. But Huang Qingyue had witnessed it all. He spent the entire night playing chess. With great effort, he managed to corner Li Changshou. Just as he was about to celebrate, Li Changshou pulled out a smaller piece from behind. He grandly declared it as the crown prince's ascension. He even named the piece Huang II. Huang Qingyue was almost in tears. She pouted her lips in frustration. Finally, she resorted to her girlish charm. She looked pitifully at Li Changshou. "Honorable National Advisor, can't you just let me win once?" Li Changshou shook his head. "When it comes to competitive games, losing always makes them less enjoyable." Huang Qingyue wholeheartedly agreed. She nodded, her big watery eyes gleaming. She looked pitifully at Li Changshou again. "It's not very fun." Li Changshou froze for a moment, then muttered to himself under his breath. Huang Qingyue caught it with her sharp hearing. So adorable. One punch might make them cry for a long time. Huang Qingyue quickly wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes, sat up straight, looked at Li Changshou seriously, and replied, "I beg you to spare my life. Teasing little girls is undeniably a lot of fun. Other than that," Li Changshou had no other intentions. "It's not that Huang Qingyue is particularly attractive. He feels no need to take any action. Of course, it's something that could be done, but there's really no need for it. One should learn to appreciate beauty." Besides, Li Changshou had no desire to proceed without any emotional connection as a foundation. The act of reproducing offspring. He possesses a strong sense of individuality, having your own ideas. At the very least, actions are directed by the brain above. Huang Qingyue knelt quietly to the side. For Li Changshou, poured a pot of water. Couldn't help but yawn again. He rubbed his eyes. He spent the whole night playing chess with Li Changshou, feeling extremely sleepy already. "You should go rest in bed." Li Changshou picked up the teacup, took a small sip. "No, absolutely not. You haven't gone to bed to rest yet. How could I possibly go?" Huang Qingyue quickly shook her head to refuse, then rubbed her tired eyes, forcing herself to stay awake. Li Changshou set the teacup down. His fingers lightly tapped on the table. With a smile, he remarked that when people are hungry, they need to eat. When they're tired, they should take a break. And when they're sleepy, they ought to rest. "Don't worry about me. I'm not sleepy." Huang Qingyue hesitated briefly. She glanced around the room and softly suggested, "Then I'll sleep on the carpet." Li Changshou stood up as he pleased. He walked over to the doorway. Waving his hand, he said, "Go ahead and sleep first. I'm heading out for a stroll." With that, he left without waiting for Huang Qingyue to respond. He strolled out slowly all by himself. Huang Qingyue stared at the closed door. Her expression froze for a moment. She climbed onto the nearby carpet, curled up and fell asleep. The palace is enormous. Li Changshou moved through it as if he owned the place. No one dared to stop him. The palace maids and eunuchs. As soon as they spotted Li Changshou's leisurely figure, they immediately dropped to their knees and bowed, paying their respects to Li Changshou. Li Changshou would politely acknowledge them, but he would never kneel in return. Yet everyone in the palace had to kneel before him, even including Emperor Songwei. He is the one who stands at the very top of the world. But there's a saying that makes sense. The higher you stand, the lonelier you become. Especially when you reach a level no one else can match. All you're surrounded by are respectful smiles. Perhaps Li Changshou enjoys seeing smiles, but it would be even better if the respect was removed. "Godfather, I have already given the order. Statues of you have been erected in every county of the Great Sui. The citizens are required to bow in reverence every year. Please choose a date. I'll have them implemented right away." Li Changshou was momentarily stunned. "Why are they worshipping me? I can't grant wishes." Songwei quickly explained that you are the Grandmaster of the Great Sui, and you single-handedly repelled the barbarians, protecting the entire Great Sui dynasty. As the guardian deity of the Sui dynasty, it is only natural for the people to bow in reverence to you. Li Changshou pinched the bridge of his nose, feeling a bit flustered by Songwei's excessive flattery. He waved his hand, casually saying, "Pick whatever day you prefer. I don't care, just do as you like." "All right, I'll go make the preparations now. I won't disturb you any further, foster father." After finishing his words, Songwei quickly turned and left. Li Changshou descended the steps slowly. He reflected on his time spent in seclusion, and considered the plans for what lay ahead. This marked his first year living in the imperial city. Every county within the Sui dynasty's borders now had statues of Li Qianxiu. May 3rd of each year was designated as National Advisor Day. All citizens were required to pay homage to Li Qianxiu's statue, with Emperor Song Wei leading the observance, followed by the collective bowing of civil and military officials. On this particular day, Li Qianxiu sat quietly at home. Received a notification like this: the influence of fate. National Teacher Day occurs every year, a day when the entire nation bows in respect. The dragon energy has reached its full capacity of 100 out of 100. Li Qianxiu was momentarily stunned. Then a delighted expression appeared on his face. It turns out he truly can grow stronger just by idling. Exquisite energy at 0 out of 1000. A prompt echoed once again in Li Qianxiu's mind. The flood dragon energy evolved into exquisite energy. Its color shifted from a deep yellow to a vibrant green. His eyes gleamed with a jade-like glow. The exquisite artifact spun within it once, and quickly settled into calmness. Exquisite artifact corresponds to third-level dragon energy. It can harmonize with nature and seamlessly merge with the world. This is a straightforward explanation of the exquisite artifact. Li Qianxiu currently has no chance to put it into practice. Let's talk about it later. Li has set up the chess pieces.